think this is a great opportunity for the Pilot Club to meet flight sim enthusiasts, to network with other developers and communities, and to promote the hobby of flight simulation.
The atmosphere is absolutely electric. Love it. If you're a beginner, if you're an expert, if you're trying to meet new people, if you want to get your hands on some pretty awesome hardware, this is the place to be. I could not recommend this enough to everyone else. This is just an awesome opportunity to hang out.
It gets together our entire hobby, everyone interested, everything from fixed wing, helicopter, virtual reality, everything in between. It brings us all to one place to collaborate on ideas and bring us all together.
It is a great opportunity if you are a serious flight simmer to meet the developers, to meet the flight sim communities, to see the new products that are coming out, to actually test them, to connect and enhance and continue this great hobby of flight simulation.
Every year we're getting bigger and bigger. There are more and more vendors here, more sim experiences to be a part of.
Oh, sorry. All right, everybody. Good morning. How are we all doing on this fine Saturday? So welcome on back to another VATSIM 101 stream. And unfortunately, unlike we had planned originally, we are obviously not on the official VATSIM channel. There was a little bit of a I guess not really an issue. Sounds like there was just a little bit of a miscommunication. Not a huge deal, so we're over here on the main channel. So, what we're gonna do is what we call VATSIM 101. And how it works is I take you through a flight in VATSIM, break things down nice and slowly as we go through it, and answer any questions that you have along the way. So we're gonna go through things like how to talk to air traffic control, how to file and fly your flight plans, how to read the different charts and publications, really just going through the basics of IFR flying on VATSIM, giving you the resources and knowledge that you need to be successful on the network. And if at any point throughout the course of the stream you do have any questions about anything, feel free, pop them on in the chat, and we will certainly be able to help you out. And my V-Pilot thing here just crashed. Give me a second. Uh-oh. Come on. Like an update or something? Bah. Okay, I think we're back. Woo. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to drop our VATSIM command in the chat here. And this is going to populate a few helpful links for you to get started if you are somebody that is new. So what I'll do is I'll go through each one of these links briefly right now, and as we get into each one of them throughout the course of the stream, we'll break them down in a little bit more detail. So the first link is the VATSIM website. That is where you're going to go to sign up. It's free, doesn't cost you anything to be on the network itself. Once you do get yourself signed up, there is a new membership orientation that you will have to go through. It is 6 modules with a final exam at the end of it. It's not a hard course for you to take and pass. It's just one of those things that you do have to do. But once you do pass that course, you will then be given a VATSIM ID number that you will then be able to use to log yourself into the network through one of the pilot clients that will connect your simulator directly to VATSIM. So those pilot clients can be found on the resources section of VATSIM's website. Just make sure you download the right one, otherwise it's not going to work. Second link down is SimBrief. That is what we use for all of our flight planning. Third link down is the VATSIM Radar, which is an interactive map that's going to show you all the pilots and controllers that are connected to the network. Fourth link down is Navigraph, which is what I use for all of my charts and publications. We're going to talk a little bit more about that once we get into the flight planning phase of things. And then the final link down is the ATC coverage tool, which is an interactive tool that's going to show us what controllers we're supposed to contact and at what point we're going to be expected to contact them. So like I said, any questions that do pop up throughout the course of the stream, feel free, pop them on in the chat, and we will definitely be able to help you. What I'm going to show you next is the pilot client that we use to connect to the VATSIM network. So this one right here is vPilot. This is what we use for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Again, depending on what simulator you're running is going to determine which one of these clients you're going to get. They're all pretty much the same thing. They just may look a little different, but all the functions that are on them are going to operate the exact same. So we'll just start going through some of this here. Right here, we have the connect and disconnect button. So if I disconnect from the network real quick, hit the connect button again, it's going to ask me for a call sign, an aircraft type, and a CellCal code. So I'm just going to connect to the network here real quick because we are at an event. So I don't want to lose my my gate here. So for the call sign, you can put in there whatever you like, whether you want it to be a realistic call sign or something that's fictional, or if you want to use a tail number in lieu of a call sign, that's up to you. The aircraft type has to be a real airplane. So you can't have anything fictional in there. It has to be a real aircraft. The biggest exceptions are no fictional aircraft and no drones. But pretty much anything else is going to be fair game for you. The CellCal code is something that we're not going to be using today. That is what you're going to use when you're flying over the ocean. We're not flying over the ocean today, so we don't have to worry about any of that. But if you were doing any oceanic flying, you would have a CellCal code that you would need to put in there so that way ATC could get a hold of you. And then once you do connect to the network, you're going to start seeing that all these things have started lighting up here. So we'll just continue down this client here and go over what we're looking at. So Mode C and ident are both transponder functions. Mode C is the altitude encoding portion of your transponder. That has to be on anytime you are connected to the VATSIM network. If you don't know how to do it on your transponder, in most cases, if you click this button right here, it will do it for you. I know with like the Airbuses, it doesn't because of the way that the Airbus transponder is designed. It won't actually click, when you hit Mode C. So you'll have to actually activate the switch on the transponder itself. But if this thing is lit up, that means you're in Mode C and this is working correctly. Ident is a function of the transponder that you are only going to hit if the air traffic controllers ask you to. That is going to make your radar return flash on their screen so that way they can see you a little bit more easily. For CellCal codes, do you pick them or do you get assigned one? Most of the time you're going to pick one. If you're doing an event where you're flying over the oceanic airspace, most of the time they're going to assign you one. But if you're just doing a regular flight, like say over the Atlantic Ocean, you can pick your own CellCal code. Flight planning button we're going to go past. I don't use that, and I'll explain why here in just a couple of minutes. The settings tab is where we're going to set up things like our VATSIM ID and password. We can set up our notification settings, the font type and size, our audio inputs, our push-to-talk settings, model matching, render distances, and, how many planes we want to have displayed. So all that behind-the-scenes stuff is going to be done through the settings tab here. Call sign is going to be on the top right, I should say the top center. So I believe the call sign, I have to check it again, but HVN 621, it's Vietnam Airlines. I believe the call sign is just Vietnam, but I'm going to double check that here in just a minute. And then over here on the right-hand side, we have the different radio frequencies that we are monitoring in radios 1 and 2. So in radio 1, which is highlighted in blue, is 122.8, and the white TX and RX means that we are both transmitting and receiving on this frequency. And then radio 2 is not highlighted in blue. The TX and RX are shaded out, meaning that we're not doing anything with this frequency just yet, or with this radio just yet. But as the flight progresses, we will likely be using that radio. Over here on the left-hand side are the different air traffic controllers that are within radio range of us. So if we were to tune into any one of these frequencies, we'd be communicating with the controller sitting on the other side. And then finally, we have the notes section here, which is what I use to copy down clearances and instructions and any other information that I'm going to need to be able to remember throughout the course of the flight. So I always recommend that you have something to write things down with, whether you want to have pen and paper or a whiteboard, or if you want to use the notes section of your pilot client, that's entirely up to you, but just have something to write things down with. So once again, if you do have any questions, feel free, pop them on in the chat. I'd be more than happy to answer any of those for you. What we're going to do next is we're going to get the ATIS for the Vietnam airport, which, it's, what's the name of this airport again? Cam Ranh. So Cam Ranh Airport. So the ATIS is the Automated Terminal Information Service, which is a broadcast that the air traffic controllers are going to put out that tells you everything about the airport that you are going to need to know. So there's two different ways that we can get the ATIS. The first way is we can tune to this frequency right here and listen to it. Or we can do what I usually do and double click it right here and then it's going to populate the ATIS in green for us to read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through this first, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to break it down piece by piece. So we have the Cameron Airport Information Juliet, updated at 1300 Zulu. Winds, I'm sorry, not winds. ILS Yankee approach runway 20 left, landing runway 20 left, and departing runway 20 right. Surface winds, right, is that what it says? Surface wind, runway 20 left, touchdown, 140 at 2 knots. Ceiling and visibility are okay. Temperature is 28, dew point is 23, altimeter is 1009. No significant changes are forecast, and advise you have information, Juliet. Sorry. So, let's break this down. It's not a whole lot, but it can be a little complex, so let's break this down piece by piece. Morning, night. So the ATIS is always going to start with the airport that it is for. So VVCR is the identifier for the Cameron Airport. So that's the airport we're at. This is the ATIS that we want. So always verify that you are looking at the correct ATIS or for the correct airport before you start reading through this any further. Next, we have Information Juliet. So Information Juliet is the current ATIS that is active for the airport. So when the controllers update the ATIS, they are going to attach a letter designator to it. So when you contact air traffic control for the first time, they're going to know whether or not you have the right one. So the ATISs are usually updated at the top of every hour. Sometimes it's a little bit sooner, so I get in the habit of checking it at the top and the bottom of every hour. But if you're checking it at the top of the hour, you're generally going to be okay. 1300 Zulu is the time that it was updated. So if you don't know what Zulu time is, it is a coordinated time zone that we use for all the time zones around the world. Rather than trying to coordinate for 24 different time zones, everybody gets set to Zulu time, so that way it's easy no matter where in the world you are. So 1300 Zulu is about 20 minutes ago, so this is going to be the most up-to-date ATIS that is available. Next, we have ILS Yankee approach runway 20 left, landing 20 left and departing 20 right. So they are landing on runway 20 left, and if you're an IFR flight, you're going to be using the ILS Yankee approach. And if you're a departing plane, you're going to be departing on runway 20 right. They have the time here again just to denote what time they forecast the winds, or when they reported the winds. So it says surface wind for runway 20 left at the touchdown point is 140 at 2 knots. So that is going to be our wind direction and speed. Wind direction is 140, and the speed is 2 knots. So the wind is broken down into a numerical format, so that way it's easy for you to determine what runway you're going to be using, because your runways are numbered based on what direction they face, and it's going to help you calculate your headwind and crosswind components for your takeoff and landing. So if you were thinking of the wind direction like compass headings, north is 360, south is 180, east is 90, and west is 270. So 140 is pretty much from the north, not from the north, from the southeast, and the speed is 2 knots. Next we have CAVOC, or you can just call it CAVIC. I call it CAVIC, which is ceiling and visibility okay, so there's no clouds or precipitation over the airport. It is a clear, beautiful night over the skies of Cameron. Next we have our outside air temperature and dew point. So that is always going to be in degrees Celsius. So outside air temperature is 28 degrees Celsius. Dew point is 23 degrees Celsius. Q1009 is the altimeter setting, or the barometric pressure for the airport. So I'm going to plug that into the airplane's altimeter window, and then the altimeter is going to display what our height above sea level is, or what our elevation is. 2 different ways that you can get an altimeter setting. One is in inches of mercury. The other is in hectopascals. The easiest way to tell which one you're looking at, if the altimeter setting starts with a 2 or a 3, it's in inches of mercury. If it starts with a 1 or a 9, it's in hectopascals. And then next we have no sig, which is no significant changes are forecast, so there's not going to be really any major variations in the weather in the near future. And advise you have information Juliet. Again, just emphasizing when we contact air traffic control, we're going to tell them that we have information Juliet. That way they know that we have reviewed this information and we understand what it is. So again, if you do have any questions, feel free, pop them on in the chat. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee real quick, and then we're going to go get our flight plan filed. So, I use SimBrief for all of my flight planning, and the reason that I use it is because it works in conjunction with another software called Navigraph, which is a third-party software that is going to give you all of the most up-to-date charts and publications and navigation data for all of your airports around the world. There are a bunch of different flight planning tools that you can use. SimBrief is not the only one. A couple that I can think of right off the bat are SkyVector, Little Navmap, flightplan.com. If you're somebody that does real-world aviation, there's ForeFlight if you're subscribed to that. So there are a lot of different options for you, but I use SimBrief because it's just the easiest one for me. Now, if you do decide that you want the Navigraph subscription, it does cost money for you to use, and I know everybody's budgets are different. You're not required to have a Navigraph subscription to be on the VATSIM network, but it does make life a lot easier for you. So to get started with our flight planning, we're going to hit this dispatch tab right here in the center of the screen. Then we're going to hit create new flight right again in the middle of the menu. And then it's going to bring us over to this information, or this page, where we're going to fill out all this information about our flight, and then SimBrief is going to put together a flight plan for us. So airline is going to be Vietnam Airlines. Flight number is going to be 621. Departure field is going to be VVCR. And our arrival is going to be WBKK. And I just realized that the Volanta thing is not showing the right stuff here. Give me a second. Why did it do that? WBKK. There we go. So WBKK is Kota Kinabalu. Kinabalu? I don't know if I'm saying that right. But that's how I'm saying it. For the alternate fields, I'm going to leave this at auto and let SimBrief decide what the alternate is going to be. And I always recommend that you plan for an alternate airport of some kind just in case you get to your destination and for some reason you can't land there. So if we get to our destination and the weather's really bad and it's not safe for us to land, or maybe there's a whole lot of people that are trying to fly there at the same time because it's the event, we have to start doing holding patterns around the airport, we run a little bit low on fuel. The alternate airport is a place that we can divert to and ensure that we have enough fuel for us to get there. And once we get the flight plan filed, we'll take a look at the planning fuel section and we'll see exactly how much is allotted to get us to that alternate location. For the departure time, you want to make sure that this is set to Zulu time, so I'm going to set this for our planned departure time, which right now is 1400 Zulu. It's about a half hour from now. I don't think we're going to be pushing back from the gate at 1400. We may be a little bit delayed, but not a big deal. That's what we're planning for right now. For the aircraft type, we are going to be flying the Airbus A321. And we are going to be using the Fenix, which I believe we are using the IAE engines. We are. So we have the Fenix with the IAE engines, or the international engines. So on top of making sure that you pick the right aircraft type, make sure you pick the right airframe. So that way all of your weights and fuel calculations and all of that will be calculated accurately. Next, we have the climb, cruise, and descent profiles. So the climb and the descent profiles are the different airspeeds you're going to fly during your climb and your descent, or at least that's what SimBrief is planning for. It doesn't mean those are the speeds that you're going to fly, but it's what SimBrief is planning. So for the climb profile, we're going to climb at 250 knots until we get to 10,000 feet, because that's the speed limit. Can't fly faster than 250 knots below 10,000. Once we get above 10,000, we're going to accelerate to 300 knots, and then we're going to maintain 300 knots until we get to Mach 0.78, and then it's Mach 0.78 up to our cruising altitude. The descent profile is the climb profile in reverse. For the cruise profile, there's two different ways you can calculate it. The first way is we can use the cruise drop down here and pick the cruising speed that we want to fly at, or we can use something called a cost index, which is what we're going to do for the Airbus. So the cost index is a formula that's going to determine how efficient your engines are going to be throughout the course of your flight. Very oversimplified explanation of what a cost index is. The higher the cost index, the faster you fly, the more fuel you burn. The lower the cost index, the slower you fly, the less fuel you burn. So I'm going to leave that at auto and let SimBrief decide what the cost index is going to be. It's usually going to set it to somewhere where our cruising speed is going to be around Mach 0.78. But whatever SimBrief gives us, that's what we're going to roll with. Down here, we have some more selections. So we have the OFP layout is set to LIDO, which is how the flight plan is going to be formatted once we get everything, situated here. So if you wanted to be a little bit more realistic and go with the airline that you're flying with, that's entirely up to you. I stick with Lido because that's what that's the format I've been using for the last couple of years. That's what I'm used to seeing. It's what I'm used to reading, so I don't usually deviate from that. AirRack cycle is going to be in reference to the navigation data that's available to us. So right now it is AirRack cycle 2504, which is valid between April 17th and May 14th of 2025. So today is April 19th. That's right in the middle of these two dates. So you just want to keep in mind what AirRack cycle you are planning for, because if you're not subscribed to Navigraph, this is going to be a much older cycle. So you just want to be cognizant of what it is, and you also want to cross-reference it to what's in your plane. Because if you don't have Navigraph, likely the information that your simulator is going to have is going to be different than what your what SimBrief is going to give you. So just be prepared, for any issues that may arise from that. Everything else here looks fine. Taxi out and taxi in times, that's just for fuel planning purposes. 30 minutes taxi out, 10 minutes taxi in. That's usually what I plan for. Schedule block time is 2 hours. Departure runway is 20 right. Arrival runway is 20. Altitude, passengers, freight, payload, and 0 fuel weight. We're going to leave those at auto. We'll let SimBrief decide what those numbers are going to be. For the departure and the arrival runways, don't get too hung up on thinking that the runways that it's giving you are the runways that you have to use. I mean, we know we're going to be using runway 20 right at Cameron because that's what the ATIS has told us. But the runways are always subject to change based on the needs of air traffic control and what's going on at the airport. So if the runway does change on us, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Don't argue with the controllers or try to tell them that SimBrief is telling you this, so this is what you have to use. Adjusting for a new runway is not a big issue. So if we do have to make any changes, we can certainly do so. And then down here, it gives us a route of flight, but we have one for the event, so I am going to plug that in here, which looks like it's almost the exact same one, just without the departure and the arrival. So you know what? I'm going to go back. I'm going to do this just so... Let me just make sure. Hang on a second. Let me just... it doesn't even really matter. So this right here is the route of flight that SimBrief is planning for us. So... what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through this route first, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to break down what it all means piece by piece. So upon departure, we're going to fly the Bank 1 Bravo departure through the bank transition. I think that's how you say that. Then we're going to fly on Whiskey 15 out to Vietnam, then to Elsas, then Mike 768 to Asisu, Yankee 446 to Aldex, and then we're going to fly the Aldex 1 Alpha arrival into... Kota Kinabalu. I definitely didn't forget how to say that and didn't have to look at Volanta to see how to read that. All right, so let's break this down. And we'll start here with this. So bank is going to be a fix. So 5 character identifiers are going to be our fixes. And fixes are arbitrary points in the sky that exist at a given set of coordinates that we are going to fly to. Rather than putting in that full set of coordinates into our GPS, we're going to put the name of that set of coordinates, and then it's going to populate on our GPS for us, and then we're going to fly directly to it. Right before bank, we see Bank 1 Bravo, and you're going to notice they drop the E at the end of bank. So when you see either a fix identifier or a partial fix identifier with a number and a letter at the end of it, that is going to be a SID, which is a standard instrument departure. It's a route that we're going to fly once we take off at a Cameron to get us away from the airport and on our way towards our destination. So there may be some speed and altitude restrictions that we have to adhere to. There's going to be a charted route that we're going to have to review to ensure that we fly it properly. But if you see this at the beginning of your flight plan, that's what it is. The first fix that comes after the SID is what we call the transition. So that is the fix where we are going to depart from that departure route and transition onto our flight plan route. After bank, we see Whiskey 15 and then another fix identifier called VETM. So Whiskey 15 is going to be an airway. And airways are essentially highways in the sky that we are going to fly along between these two fixes. So we're going to join Whiskey 15 at bank and we're going to depart it at VETM. And airways are going to be 1 or 2 letters followed by 1 up to 3 numbers in most cases. So if you were thinking of this like driving in your car down a highway, Whiskey 15 is going to be your highway, Bank's going to be your on-ramp, VETM is going to be your off-ramp. From VETM, we're going to fly to Elsas. Then we're going to get on another airway, Mike 768, out to Asisu. Then Yankee 446 out to Aldex. And then we're going to join the Aldex 1 Alpha arrival into Kota Kinabalu. Kota Kinabalu. Oh, my God. So, we see this again at the end of our flight plan. So it's a partial fix identifier with a number and a letter at the end of it. So when you see that at the end of your flight plan, that is going to be a star, which is a standard terminal arrival route. It's going to be just like the SID, but instead of it taking us away from the airport, it's going to bring us down to the airport. And I just realized the music was not on this entire time. I apologize about that. So the star, it's going to be a chartered route with maybe some speed and altitude restrictions on it. And again, it's going to take us down into our destination. The fix that comes before the star is our transition. So at Aldex, we're going to transition off of our flight plan route onto the arrival route. So it works the same way like the SID, except in the opposite direction. So if you do have any questions about this, feel free, pop your questions in the chat. And then once all of this is filled out, there's nothing that we have to change, nothing that we have to adjust. Everything all looks good. We're going to hit this Generate Flight Plan button right up here on the upper left-hand side. And then SimBrief is going to put together a flight plan for us that we can then file on the VATSIM network. So what I'll do is I'll just read through all of this and then break it down as I go through it. So, flight number and call sign are both going to be Vietnam 621. Departure is Cameron. Arrival is Kota Kinabalu. And our alternate is going to be, let's see here. So, it looks like Brunei International. I'm just going to double check to make sure this is a suitable alternate for us. WBSB. WBSB. So, let's take a look at this. Okay, 73 feet above field elevation. It's a 12,000 foot long runway. Yeah, that is definitely going to be a suitable airport for an A321. Let me just import the flight plan here. Well, just while I'm here. Then we'll come back over to SimBrief and we'll just keep going through. Aircraft is going to be the Airbus A321. Departure date and time is going to be April 19th at 1400 Zulu. It says UTC. UTC and Zulu are the same thing. It's just a different way of saying it. And one thing I did forget to mention is that for when you're putting in your departure time, your current Zulu time is down here on the lower left-hand side of SimBrief. So if you're ever unsure what time it is in Zulu, it's going to tell it for you right here. Airtime is 1 hour and 55 minutes. Block time is 2 hours and 35 minutes. So your airtime is your wheels up to wheels down time. Your block time is your airtime plus your taxi out and taxi in time. Woke up early. Yeah, we're up a little early today. Initial altitude is 36,000 feet or flight level 360. Cruise profile is going to be a cost index of 60. Route distance is 816 nautical miles. Average winds are going to be 108 degrees at 18 knots. So a little bit of a headwind this morning, or this evening, I should say. It's Vietnam. It's nighttime in Vietnam right now. Block fuel is 22,083 pounds, which is how much fuel we have to put on board the plane. 12,650 of which are going to get us out to Kota Kinabalu. The rest of it is going to be some reserve fuel and enough fuel for us to divert out to our alternate location just in case we have to. 168 passengers on board the plane this evening with 5,347 pounds of cargo. And then next we have our zero fuel, takeoff, and landing weights. And we're just looking to make sure the numbers on the top are less than or equal to the maximum weights that are on the bottom. So zero fuel weight is 143,000 over 166,000. Takeoff weight is 164,000 over 206,000. And our landing weight is 151,000 over 171,000. So all the weights look good. We're just going to make sure the center of gravity is where it needs to be once everything gets loaded on board. And if we have to move some weight around, we can certainly do so. Next, we are going to... Oh, I don't even remember if... because I just kind of did the route in here. Shit. All right. So Bank, Whiskey 15, Venom, LSA. Okay, so it's the exact same route. So the route that SimBrief gives. So when you're doing these events like the First Wings, the planning team is going to give you a route to fly. This time it just happened to be that the route that SimBrief gave us was the same as the event route, but you always just want to double check that and make sure. So we have our route of flight once again. So we have from Cameron, we're going to depart runway 20 right. Then we're going to fly the Bank 1 Bravo departure through the bank transition, Whiskey 15 to Venom, direct to Elsas, Mike 768 to Moxon. I'll explain what this is here in a second. Out to Asisu, Yankee 446 to Aldex, and the Aldex 1 Alpha arrival into Kota Kinabalu, right now planning runway 20. So, right after our airport of origin, we see this right here. So this is going to be our cruising speed and cruising altitude. The cruising speed starts with a K, which means it's going to be in kilometers. So our cruising speed is going to be 861 kilometers. Cruising altitude is flight level 360. And then over here, you're going to see this again. So in Vietnam, they use kilometers instead of knots to gauge their speeds as far as their flight planning goes. And then once we get over, it looks like this is going to be sometime once we cross over into Malaysian airspace, it changes from going from kilometers back over to knots. So our cruising speed is going to be 466 knots, still at a cruising altitude of flight level 360. And then that change is going to happen at the Moxon fix, which is probably going to be right here. Maybe not. Oh, right there. So that's all this is. So don't let this confuse you. It didn't do anything to change the route. It just changed the units that they measure speed in. So that's what it's going to look like. So yeah, that's everything there. And then the briefing preview, we're just going to take a look at the planned fuel section here just to see what the different fuel allotments are. So we have enough fuel to make the trip out to Kota Kinabalu, which is 12,650 pounds, or an hour and 55 minutes worth of fuel. An additional 15 minutes of contingency fuel, just in case we need it, 1,646 pounds, and that's going to be in the event that we can't do the approach right the first time because I forgot how to fly a plane, have to go around and try it again. Alternate is going to be, wow, enough fuel for us to divert out to our alternate, which is 2,846 pounds, which is 26 minutes worth of fuel. Some additional fuel in reserves, again, just in case we need it, 2,782 pounds, which is 30 minutes worth of fuel. And then an additional 10% of our trip fuel as an additional reserve, 1,265 pounds, which is 12 minutes worth of fuel, giving us a minimum takeoff fuel amount of 21,189 pounds, which is 3 hours and 19 minutes worth of fuel. So this is going to be what we put in our flight plan under the fuel endurance section. That way the controllers know how much fuel we have on board the plane when we take off. And then this is the minimum amount of fuel that can be on board the plane when we take off. So anything less than 21,189 pounds, we will not be able to take off with. We will have to refuel the plane. We add our taxi fuel of 894 pounds, which is 30 minutes worth of taxi fuel, giving us our total block fuel of 22,083 pounds. Then to file this flight plan on VATSIM, we're going to come down to pre-file on a network, where it says file a flight plan on an online virtual flying network. Hit the show details tab. Right up at the top, we have the VATSIM flight planning tool. Hit pre-file. And then it's going to bring us over to the VATSIM tool, where it's going to have all of this information pre-filled out for us. So we're just going to double check and make sure that all of this information is filled out correctly. And this is why I use SimBrief for my flight planning, because it's going to pull all of this information from SimBrief directly into the into the VATSIM flight planner for us. So call sign is going to be Vietnam 621. Flight rules are IFR. Aircraft is the A321, which is a medium weight class category. Equipment and transponder codes all look good. This, again, pulls it directly from the SimBrief profile for the plane, so we don't have to sit here and try and figure out what letter and number combinations we need to put in here. SimBrief takes care of that for us. Departure is going to be Cameron. Arrival is going to be Kota Kinabalu. Off-block time is 0400. Jesus, learn how to read, Cross. 1400 Zulu. Alternate is Brunei. I think is how you say it. Altitude is 36,000 or flight level 360. Time en route's 1 hour and 55 minutes. Airspeed is 465 knots. And our fuel endurance is 3 hours, 19 minutes. Down here, it's got the route details. I am just going to paste this all from the route that the event team gave us, so we're not going to put the departure or the arrival or that stupid little speed changeover thing that we had just talked about before. Just the flight plan route from the planning team will do in this case. Then down here, again, this drags everything over from the VATSIM or from SimBrief, so I'm not going to touch any of this. I leave all these fields alone. But in the remarks section here, I'm going to put our little VATSIM 101 shameless plug because why not? No one can stop me. But in the remarks section, you can put in anything that you want the air traffic controllers to know just in case you get yourself a little stuck or you need a little bit of extra help. So if you are a new pilot on VATSIM, you could put, new pilot, first flight on VATSIM, first flight in Vietnam, first flight in Malaysia. If you have scenery issues with your airport, you can put in here what specific issue you're having, whether it's a taxiway that's, a little messed up, or if you have a runway that's missing, or maybe your runways aren't as long as they should be because the scenery you have for your airport is just old and outdated. So again, anything that will allow air traffic control to help you is what you can put in the remarks section here. Woof bark. And then once we are done with everything on this page here, we're going to hit this file flight plan button. It's right down here below my head. So that's now going to get routed up to the air traffic control system. Right up here it says flight plan filed, enjoy your flight. So the air traffic controllers will be able to help us and get us our clearance once we give them a call here in just a couple of minutes. So now let's talk about air traffic control. So first we're going to take a look at the VATSIM radar. So like I had mentioned before, this is going to be an interactive map that's going to show you all the pilots and controllers that are connected to the network all across the world. Right now we'll stick to Vietnam since that's where we're going to be departing out of. And you're going to see a whole bunch of different colors, whole bunch of different shapes, and a whole bunch of different letters. So each one of these color-coded sectors and letters is going to be a different type of air traffic controller. So these big green sectors that you see are going to be your center controllers. So big green sectors are center controllers. The smaller orange sectors are going to be your approach and departure controllers. And you're going to hear me say approach and departure kind of interchangeably because you call them approach when you're arriving and you call them departure when you're leaving. The yellow A is the ATIS, which is what we had talked about just before. The red T is the tower controller. The green G is the ground controller. And sometimes you'll see a blue D, which I don't see any right now. Let's just take a look around, see if we find any. Oh, there's one right over here. And then the blue D is going to be your clearance delivery controller. We'll come back over here to Vietnam. So that's who all of them are. Now let's talk about what they're going to do. To do this, we are going to use the ATC coverage tool. So this is an interactive tool that is going to tell us what all of these different controllers do and at what point we're going to be expected to contact them. So starting from the bottom, we have the clearance delivery controller. And they are going to give us our clearance for our flight. So they're going to tell us what route we're going to fly, what altitude we're going to fly at. They're going to go through our flight plan, and if they have to make any changes to it, they'll make those changes and let us know what they are, so that way we can adjust accordingly. So the flight plan that we file isn't necessarily the flight plan that we're going to fly, it's the flight plan that we are asking for. The ground controller is going to give us instructions about how to taxi around the airport, both for our departure and for our arrival. The tower controller is going to give us our takeoff and landing clearance, and they're also going to handle us while we're flying in the immediate vicinity around the airport. The approach and departure controllers are going to control us within their airspace boundaries, usually at lower altitudes flying into or out of a specific airport. And the center controllers are going to control us within their airspace boundaries, normally at higher altitudes during our cruise phase of flight. Some exceptions to that, but that is typically when they're going to be talking to us. So if we come back over to the VATSIM radar and we come down to Cameron, you're going to notice that most of these controllers are online, but we're missing a clearance delivery controller. So there are going to be times where some or all of these different air traffic controllers aren't going to be able, or that aren't going to be around to assist you. So in our case, we don't have a clearance delivery controller. So we're just going to disable the delivery controller on this tool here. And you're going to see the ground controller now drops down into clearance delivery, meaning that the ground controller takes over for them. So this is what we refer to as the top-down structure of VATSIM air traffic control. The controllers at the top of this list can substitute for any of the controllers that fall beneath them if those controllers are not online. So if we were to take a look at another airport here real quick, just as an example, let's come on over to Manila. So Manila, there's an approach controller and there's a center controller, but there's no tower, ground, or clearance delivery. So if we turned off the tower and ground controller, at Manila, the approach controller is going to take over for all three of them. So I know this gets a little bit confusing, so if you do have any questions about this, you can feel free to pop them in the chat, and you can use this tool however you need to based on whatever airport it is that you're flying out of to help you figure out who you're supposed to contact. But the way that VATSIM does it is a little bit different than how we do it in the real world. So if there are any questions, again, feel free, pop them on in the chat. How much time until I spawn in and get ready? Well, it is an event, and you do need a time slot for the First Wings event. So you could spawn in and get your clearance, but you may get delayed because the people that have the slots are going to be prioritized over you. So if you don't have a slot time for this event, expect to get delayed. So now let's talk about how we're going to talk to air traffic control. Because there is a standard sort of way that we need to communicate so the controllers know exactly what it is that we need. And for this, we are going to use what I like to call the 4 whiskeys of radio communication. The 4 whiskeys are who you're calling, who you are, what your position is, and what your intentions are. And if you want to get a downloadable copy of this spreadsheet here, ATC in the chat, that'll spawn the link that you can download this. And for those of you that are going to be watching this on YouTube, I'll leave a link in the description of the video for you, so that way you can download this as well. So the first whiskey is who we're calling. For us, that is going to be Cameron Ground. So that is going to be the ground controller at Cameron Airport. The second whiskey is who we are, and that is going to be our call sign. Our call sign is Vietnam 621. The third whiskey is what our position is, and that is going to be our physical location on the airport. And I am 95% positive I spawned in at gate 51. So the scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator is a little wacky. I didn't spawn over here at this terminal. I'm pretty sure I'm at spot 51. I'm just going to say I'm at spot 51. Oh, you know what? I can actually use this. This will tell me. So we are at spot 51 3/4. Then the fourth whiskey is what our intentions are. And our intentions are to fly to Kota Kinabalu. But we can't just get in the plane, push back from our gate, and fly there. We have to get permission from air traffic control to fly to our destination. So we are going to request our clearance down to Kota Kinabalu. Do I even sleep? No. That's why I'm so grumpy all the time. The response we're going to get from air traffic control, or at least the response we're going to expect, is going to be in an acronym called CRAFT. So C is going to be our clearance limit, which is going to be our destination. The R is going to be our route of flight. The A is going to be our altitude, which is going to be an initial altitude followed by a higher altitude within a certain amount of time. The F is the frequency upon departure, so that when we take off and tower tells us to contact departure, this is the frequency we'll go to. And the T is the transponder code that we are going to put into the airplane's transponder, so that way the controllers can see us as our call sign on their radar scope. So I am going to turn off the music here, and I am going to bring us back over to the plane, and we're going to come down to our radio here, if I can remember the keybind for it. And the ground controller is on 121.85 or 825. So I'm going to plug that into my radio here. And before I switch over to this frequency and just start talking, I'm going to listen for a second that no one else is trying to communicate at the same time as I am. Because if I try to talk at the same time as somebody else, both of our transmissions are going to get blocked. No one's going to be able to understand what we're saying, and we're going to waste everybody's time. So it seems like it's quiet for right now. So let's give this guy a call and get our clearance. Camera on ground, Vietnam 621, spot 51, requesting our clearance down to Kota Kinabalu. Let me check something here. Sometimes V-Pilot has a little bit of a panic attack. It's 121.825. 121.825. Okay, so let me bring this over to the... It's working. Camera on ground, Vietnam 621, spot 51, requesting IFR clearance down to Kota Kinabalu. Seriously? Camera on Vietnam 61. All right, so it's working. All right, well, we'll give him a minute here. I don't know why. Oh, whoops. I don't know why I'm not getting a response. So we'll just come back over here and we will just get our flight plan plugged in. So VVCR to WBKK. IRS should be aligned. Get the music turned back on for right now. And then we'll just do... I guess we'll just plan on the departure that we talked about before. I just want to get something in here. So yeah, now it's information kilo. Let's see. So we're taking off on 20 right. And it's the Bank 1 Bravo. Throw that in here. And then we'll just put the route in here. So it's going to be Whiskey 15 to VATSIM. And then from there, it's going to be direct to Alsace. Whoops. Then M768 to Asisu. Then Yankee 446 to Aldex. Huh? Oh, Adlex. I'm spelling it wrong. Adlex. There we go. Yeah, then let's just get all of our performance data done so when we call this guy again, we'll be ready to rock and roll. Because we are pretty much at our pushback time here. So sync the load sheet, calculate this. So V1 is 151, VR is 155, and V2 is also 155. Flaps are going to be set to 2 with a trim up of 1.0, and flex temp is going to be 54 degrees. Then we're going to have our weights here. So zero fuel weight is 143.5. Center of gravity is 25.6. So we'll come back over to our init page here. So flight number is going to be HVN621. Cost index is going to be 60. Pretty normal for the A321. Cruising altitude is 360. Zero fuel weight is going to be 143.5. And our block fuel is... where is it? 22.1. Oh, I didn't put the center of gravity in here. 143.5 at 25.6. And perf is going to be V1 151, VR 155, V2 also 155. Flaps are going to be set to 2 with a trim up of 1. And our flex temp is going to be 54 degrees. So we'll just get this set to our cruising altitude. Camera on ground, Vietnam 621, spot 51, request an IFR clearance down to Kota Kinabalu. Why am I not getting a response out of this guy? All right, I'm just gonna go over to tower. Like, I'm not gonna sit here for 19 minutes wondering why I can't get the controller to respond to me. Not paying attention. I don't even know if he's there. Camera on tower, Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, go ahead.
Yeah, we're at spot 51, trying to call up the ground controller, not getting a response out of him. We're looking for our IFR clearance down to Kota Kinabalu.
Roger, stand by. I will call you later.
Okay. So is it the same guy running both these frequencies? I have no idea. Well, I'll monitor the tower frequency just in case the tower controller actually calls me. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if I would say it's bad ATC. Just don't know if there's something going on that I don't know about. All right. So I'm not going to turn the APU on just yet.
And approach 221, Roger. Continue on drop 1 and crossing way 20 right. And then continue on.
Could be something happening. He's not running both frequencies. It's a completely different VATSIM ID on that frequency. It's not him. It's somebody else. I'm just not sure what's going on.
Vietnam 621, yeah.
Oh. Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, how did you pick me?
There's a lot of background noise. I can barely hear you, but we're ready to copy Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, sorry about for my background. So can you able to contact camera and ground on 121.825?
121.825, Vietnam 621.
Okay, see you later.
All right, let's try this again. Camera on ground, Vietnam 621, spot 51, request an IFR clearance down to Kota Kinabalu. Oh my God. You can cross, couple, and run both frequencies from the controller position if the ground guy had to step away, if it's a different idea. Yeah, I have no idea, but he just told me to contact him, and he's... Camera on ground, Vietnam 621.
Good evening, camera from China Post 221. With you.
Yeah, Vietnam 621, we are requesting IFR clearance down to Kota Kinabalu.
Good evening, Canon Grand China Post 221 on Category Whiskey with you.
I have no idea what this fucking guy is saying.
221 how Nairobi now how Nairobi
What?
We are one taxi whiskey with you.
I have no idea what is happening on this frequency right now.
China bus 221 taxi to stand number 3 for via whiskey Yankee 6 Yankee.
Taxi to April where whiskey Yankee 3 and Yankee China Post 221.
Vietnam 621
Vietnam 621, we're requesting IFR clearance down to Kota Kinabalu.
Vietnam 621 clear to Kota Kinabalu via Banker 1 Bravo, runway 20 right, unit to climb 5,000 feet, expect level 360, stand
5,360.
Vietnam 621 level 360 unavailable, would you like to shoot 330 or 410?
Sorry, we're planned for 360. I don't think we can take 410 with our weight, Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621 call Roger, Bravo 410, ready for 86.
Okay, I cannot take flight level 410. 410 is going to be too high. Planned for 360, Vietnam 621.
Unable, level 360 unavailable. Can you choose level 330 instead?
Yeah, I can do 330, Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, Roger, ready for 86 clearance.
Yeah, we are ready, Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, clear to contact Kinabalu via Banker 1 Bravo, departure runway 20 right. Initial climb 5,000 feet, expect level 330, squawk 5607.
5607. All right, clear to Kota Kinabalu via the Bank 1 Bravo departure, runway 20 right. Initial climb 5,000, expect 330. Squawk code is 5607, Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, reduct ATC correct. Call me when ready for push stop and departure stand number.
All right, we'll call when ready for push and departure stand number for Vietnam 621. Thank you. All right.
Vietnam 621, departure stand number.
Say again, Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, report your stand number.
Stand number is 51. Stand number 51, Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, call Roger. Thank you.
Okay. Let's get the APU fired up here. Man, that could have been an Olympic sport. All right, so let's get our radio set up while this is going on. So, we have tower plugged into radio or active or standby one. The departure frequency is going to be, let's turn this down. Departure frequency is 127.9.
Yes, Banker 1 Bravo departure.
So just presetting my radios for the frequencies I know I'm going to need, so that way I don't have to fumble with these knobs later. All I got to do is push these buttons, and then I'll be on the correct frequency. So yeah, everything here is good. I'm going to open up my pushback helper. And 330 is going to be our altitude, which is interesting. Oh, I see why. Because for most of the flight we're flying eastbound. Okay, so sim brief. Sim brief, I see what happened. 5607. In the transponder. And that's looking good, so let's get these turned on here. Okay, so we are just about ready to go. Oh, actually, you know what I just realized? I left my water bottle downstairs. That's unfortunate. All right, let me just double check the ATIS here real quick. So the altimeter said it's still 1009, so that's good. Yeah, let me step away for just a second. I'm gonna run downstairs and I'm gonna grab my water bottle. So I'll be right back. Sorry.
And number 53 via Whiskey 5, Yankee 5, Yankee, number 648.
Okay, so before we get ourselves pushed back, I know we're running a little bit late because we're already past our time, but let's take a look at the Bank 1 Bravo departure coming out of the airport. So before we start looking at any of these charts, we want to make sure we're looking at the right airport and we're looking at the right chart. So we have VVCR, which is Cameron International Airport, which is in Con Ho? Is that how you say it? In Vietnam. So we're looking so far at the right airport, and then right here it tells us that there are a couple of different departure routes that are on here. So we have the Ankin 1 Bravo, the Bank 1 Bravo, the Copham 1 Alpha, the Neo 1 Bravo, and it looks like the Sultan 1 Bravo. So the Bank 1 Bravo is what we want, and it's for runways 20 left and 20 right. So we're looking at the right airport, we're looking at the right chart. So down here, we have the airport. So two things we want to find. We want to find the airport that we're at, and then we also want to find the transition that we're going to be flying. So our transition is going to be at Bank, which is out over here. So we need to get from here to there. Now, runway 20 right is going to be this runway right here that comes out in this direction. So when we take off, we're going to track 200 degrees out to CR 400 at or above 2,000 feet. So this right here is an altitude restriction. And the way that you read your altitude restrictions is you look for where the altitude falls in reference to these lines. So if the altitude is above this line, it means you need to be at or above that altitude. From CR 400, we fly out to CR 401, then out to CR 402. And then it says if we're flying the Neo 1 Bravo or the Sultan 1 Bravo, we have a speed restriction of a max of 250 knots indicated. And then for all departures, we need to be at or above 9,000. Then we fly out to CR 403, max speed of 250 knots. Then, because we're flying out to Bank, we're going to track this route right here. So we fly out to CR 404, at or above flight level 140. Then we fly to Bank. And then from Bank, we're going to transition onto Whiskey 15 and continue our flight plan route. This golden ring right here is going to be the minimum sector altitudes within 25 nautical miles of the airport. So if we're east of the airport, the altitude is 5,400 feet. If we're to the west, it's 7,500 feet. So if we're going to be below those altitudes in these sectors, we just want to be cognizant of any terrain or obstacles that could be around us. And then down over here, it looks like we have some climb gradients we have to be able to maintain. So for the Ankin 1 Bravo and the Bank 1 Bravo, we need to maintain a 5.5% climb gradient to flight level 140. So this right here is going to tell us what climb rates we need based on our ground speed. So assuming most of the climb here up to flight level 140 is going to be at 250 knots, we're going to be looking for 1,392 feet per minute, which is not going to be a problem at all for the A321. Our initial climb is going to be somewhere around 3,000 feet a minute. And then once we get to our thrust reduction altitude, we're going to back it down to maybe, 2,500 feet per minute. So I will leave this up on the screen for another minute or so. If you do have any questions, feel free, pop them in the chat. I'm just gonna try and get through some of these things as fast as possible so that way we can get ourselves going. Because we're pretty much ready for pushback at this point.
Contact tower 118.2. Good day, Pasiano 194.
Alright, so I'm gonna get the chocks pulled away from the plane. Parking brake is on. I have like 72 load sheets here. Alright, so let's get these. I have so many. Okay, so tug is getting hooked up, and we'll get the beacon light turned on here. Oh, what I can also do is bid on my ACARS flight. That might be a smart idea, huh? So it's going to take a minute for the tug to get hooked up, so we'll just do that, and then we're going to call and get our pushback clearance here in just a minute. Again, using the same 4 whiskeys that we talked about before. So the 4 whiskeys are who you're calling, who you are, what your position is, and what your intentions are. Who we're calling is going to be camera on ground. Who we are is Vietnam 621. Our position is stand number 51, and our request is to push and start. And we also need to tell them wow. I don't know why I just... Yeah, we also need to tell them what the ATIS is. So, always remember, when you contact ground for the first time, you do have to tell them the ATIS that you have. Why is my ACARS not working? Why is everything breaking? All right. Airbus A321, flight level 330. Want to make sure this is going to register. There we go. All right, cool. So let's get the music turned off here. And let's get our pushback clearance. Let me get the radio turned back up. Sounds like somebody just tried to call in, so we'll give it a second. Camera on ground, Vietnam 621, spot 51 with Kilo, requesting push and start.
Vietnam 621, push start, starting to facing east on Yankee Taxiway, QNH 1009.
Okay, pushback approved, facing east on Yankee, altimeter 1009, is Vietnam 621. All right, so pretty simple. So we're going to push back. It says facing east. East is going to be like in a kind of this way direction because this is the runway we have to go to. So we're going to push back, swing our tail out to the left. Oh, you guys can't even see it. So we're going to swing our tail out to the left and face in this direction.
Say that again.
All right, so let's bring this out here.
Check it on your microphone, please. I can't hear you. Read 0 by 5.
So I can't see a damn thing. So I guess I'll get us as close to what I think is Yankee as I can. I mean, we have a runway, so that's good.
623, I read you 5.
Yeah, we're looking to pick up our clearance to Quattro. We got information. Kilo on board.
All right, so let's fire up engine number 1. I can kind of see a taxi.
Clear to contact in caution. Qatar 623 clear to contact in Abalu by Panther 1 Bravo, departure runway 20 right. Radio ground 5,000 feet, expect level 330, squawk 5765.
Can I repeat the squawk there for Qatar 600?
Squawk 5765.
Sir, you went fast. There's so many things happening in your background there. Can you please repeat again?
Qatar Qatar 623, clear to destination by Bankai 1 Bravo, runway 20 right. Initial climb 5,000 feet, expect level 320, squawk 5765.
Okay, Qatar 693, we're clear to Kota Verde Bank 1 Bravo departure, initial flight level 5,000 feet, expect runway 20 right for departure. And you're still saying, can you text me the squawk for me for Qatar 693?
The squawk code is 5765.
Okay, 5765 for Qatar 693, thank you.
Alright, I think this is as good as we're gonna get here. I can't see shit.
Oh,
Oh, this looks like we're actually on the taxiway.
Call me when you got.
Alright, we're gonna get the parking brake on, and we're gonna fire up engine number 2. Tug's gonna get called away. We're under our own power at this point.
And the Qatar 623, looking ready for push and start here at gate 37.
Kick over. A321 always scares me because the last couple of times I flew it, there was always some kind of like weird thing. This is like the only time where I've loaded the plane in and like something weird hasn't happened. Like the last few times, I remember the rack got deployed, the hydraulics weren't working. So I don't like, I have all the failures turned off. So I don't know why it keeps just like doing wonky things, but so far we haven't had any issues. And then we're gonna go to take off. We're gonna have a twin engine failure.
Qatar 623, looking to push and start here at gate 37.
Qatar 623, stand by for pushback due to traffic pushing back.
Okay, so engines are good. We're gonna turn the igniters off. We're going to turn the predict wind shear on and the weather system on. TCAS is going to come to RA.
Still stand by for the...
We're going to do a quick flight control check here. So ailerons are good. Elevators good. Rudders and speed brakes are good. Flaps are going to come to 2. Trim is going to come up to 1. Cabin pressure looks good. Electrical buses look good. The hydraulics look good. We'll come up here. We'll turn the APU off. Then we've got... What's next? I have to do the fuel. That's flight controls. That's not fuel. Where's the fuel? There it is. So everything over here looks good. All right. So we'll get the lights turned off here. And now we're going to call, and we are going to get our taxi clearance for departure. So same 4 whiskeys as before. Who we're calling, who we are, what our position is, and what our intentions are. Camera on ground. It's the Vietnam 621 with Kilo, ready to taxi.
Vietnam 621 taxi. Depart runway 20 right via Yankee 6, Whiskey 7 on short runway 20.
Okay, runway 20 right via Yankee 6, Whiskey 7, hold short 20 right, Vietnam 621. All right, so Yankee 6, so Yankee 6 is going to be right here, and then Whiskey 7, we're going to hold short of the runway right here. Now, one thing that's nice about Navigraph that I'm going to show you is that little pink arrow right there is going to follow us along as we start moving around the airport. So it comes in really handy when you're operating at airports that you may be unfamiliar with. So this way you get to maintain your situal awareness. Kind of works like a moving map. So as we can see, we're coming up on Yankee 6. So I'm making my right-hand turn right here. And then that first left is going to be taxiway Whiskey. So this isn't a terribly difficult airport to navigate, but comes in really handy.
Go ahead for Qatar 693.
We'll do the takeoff thing. I always forget to set the speed brakes and the auto brake in this plane.
Yankee taxiway QNH 100.
We'll face east on Yankee for Qatar 693.
So yeah, we're getting out about 20 minutes late. Not a huge deal. It happens. So eventually, the ground controller is going to tell us to check in with tower. The tower controller is going to give us our takeoff clearance. And once we get into the air, the 4 whiskeys change just a little bit. So the first 2 whiskeys are still who we're calling and who we are. And then the 3rd and 4th whiskeys become what altitude we're at. And the 4th whiskey is what other restrictions we are given. So if we are given an airspeed or a heading to fly or a fix to fly to, we just want to make sure we're relaying that over to the next controller. So in the air, it's who you're calling, who you are, what altitude you're at, and what restrictions you were given.
Vietnam 621, contact tower 18.2, clear.
118.2, Vietnam 621. Thanks for all your help today. Turn off lights will come on. We'll pull the landing lights out. We're not going to turn them on just yet, though. So let's come on over to... Whoops, that's the wrong thing. All right. Camera on tower, Vietnam 621, short 20 right at Whiskey 7, ready for departure.
Vietnam 621, hello, runway, present wind count, runway 20, right clear for takeoff.
20 right clear for takeoff, Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, report airborne.
Say again, Vietnam 621?
Vietnam 621, report when airborne.
Report airborne, Vietnam 621. So once we get off the ground, he just wants us to let him know. So we'll go landing lights on, nose lights set to takeoff. Then we'll do this one from a dig. All right, so power 40%. And flex. Airspeed's alive.
Bridge card 121, confirm we are clear to approach.
B1, rotate. B2. Positive climb. Camera on tower, Vietnam 621 is airborne.
Vietnam 621, contact camera and approach on 127.9.
127.9, Vietnam 621. Alright, so we'll bring this over here. We'll go flaps 1. And thrust reduction, altitude, climb power. Camera on departure, Vietnam 621, 1,900. Climbing to 330.
Yeah, 621, get camera departure, identified climb 330.
Say altitude again, Vietnam 621.
Yeah, 621, level 202.
Climb flight level 200, Vietnam 621. All right. This plane is really struggling to get some speed, but it is an A321. It is notoriously slow.
Command approach, Airbus Chicago 121, confirm we are clear to approach.
121, call you for like 3 times. Descend 2,000 feet clear.
All right, flaps up.
Repeat, please.
Descend 2,000 feet and clear out. Yeah, keep on runway 20 left.
Descend 2,000 feet, clear to Los Angeles approach.
The turn-off lights off, nose lights are going to come off. Start our left-hand turn. And then our transition altitude is 9,000, so that's when we'll switch over to the standard altimeter setting.
And departure, good evening, Qatar 693.
I know I'm being a little quiet right now, but I'm just trying to stay focused.
Departure passing 2,000.
Once we get above 10,000, we'll turn the music back on.
200 for Qatar 693.
Next altitude restriction is at or above 9,000 for the next fix, which we'll easily be able to make.
Vishal 121, thanks. Traffic tower wide, let's go through today. Vishal 121, contact tower 118.2.
I'll get the autopilot on
Fine,
here.
just want to do it, Chicago 121.
So coming up on our transition altitude, so we'll get this set to standard.
Approach, good evening, ECAR 3661, passing plateau 170, descending 150, inbound SIM.
And we still have to keep it at 250 knots until we get to CR 403.
ECAR 3661.
Alright, so we're at 10,000. Landing lights and wing lights are going to come off. And we'll chime the seatbelts as we pass 10,000.
5,015, H1009, ECAR 3661.
And we'll get the music turned back on for you guys.
Vietnam 621, left turn direct bank A.
Left turn direct back A for Vietnam 621. Alright, so that's nice. We got a nice little shortcut. So let's go Banque. I guess that's how you say it, Banque. And there's the music. There we go. We'll get to fly right over the airport again. So if anybody does have any questions about anything that's gone on here over the last couple of minutes, feel free to pop them in the chat. So we got about 2 hours until we get to our destination. As we get closer, we'll make sure that we brief whatever arrival it is that we're going to get assigned. Obviously a little too early now. And it looks like there's not a whole lot of traffic on our way down there, though. So we are right here, and then we're going to be coming down this way. There's only a handful of planes that are out here. So that is one of the nicer things about the First Wings events, is that they are not typically overcrowded events, and they're like that by design. Top of climb, it says it's going to be in about 25 miles. I do not believe you. The A321 is known for a lot of things. Climbing at an acceptable rate is not one of them. Especially once you get up to like flight. Oh, that because I think that might be a 200. That might be when we get to 200, not when we get to 330. That would make sense because it will take us 3 to 5 business days just to get to 200. It'll take us until Monday morning to get to 330.
Vietnam 621, contact with control 132.35 today.
132.35, Vietnam 621.
Sorry, 623, contact with control 132.35 today.
130.25, see you.
Confirm 132.
Alright. Ho Chi Minh Control, Vietnam 621, flight level 170, climbing flight level 200.
Vietnam 621, Ho Chi Minh Control, hello. Identify climb flight level 330.
Climb flight level 330, Vietnam 621.
The control, Qatar 623, climbing, we're maintaining flight level 200.
Qatar person, Qatar 623, Ho Chi Minh Control, hello. Climb flight level 330.
230 for Qatar 600.
Alex Air Trap, thank you for that follow. Welcome aboard. Or Alex Air Tap, not Trap, sorry. Now I can't even see our top of climb. That's about in character. Oh my God. Where is our top of climb? Jesus. Top of climb is never. My God. So after Venom. Tap like tap. Oh, okay, cool. Very nice. The ground controller broke my ears. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. All right. So there's not really a whole lot for us to go over between now and probably the next, like, hour or so. Looks like we're going to be landing at 16:28 according to this thing. So that's about an hour and a half? Yeah, about an hour and a half from now. So we're going to be transitioning through 3 different airspaces. We're going to go from Ho Chi Minh out to...
21, proceed direct Akmon.
To what? That was Akmon, Alpha, Kilo, Mike, Oscar, November for Vietnam 621.
621 affirmative, Akmon, Alpha, Kilo, Mike, Oscar, November.
All right, direct Akmon, Vietnam 621. Another shortcut. We like shortcuts. What is predict wind? So that's that is, it doesn't work in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Not for 2024 it might. For 2020 it doesn't. But that's the predict wind shear. So basically, in the nose of the plane, there is a lot of equipment that detects certain weather that's ahead of you. So it can sense if there is wind shear or if it thinks that there's going to be wind shear ahead of you. So if it detects that there's conditions ahead of you that are or are predictive, I guess, of wind shear, it will sound an alert in the cockpit to let you know so you can adjust.
Descend level 200, recap 6250.
I mean, I know there's probably an actual A321 or just an airline pilot that uses these systems that could probably explain it a lot better than I could, but basically it looks out ahead of the plane, and if it thinks that there's going to be wind shear, it lets you know. Becomes pretty critical during takeoff and landing. So like when you're landing, if you get a wind shear alert, it's an immediate go around. And I found out last night, because for those of you guys that were here last night, my CPU was pegged at like 100% the whole time. It was the friggin' Fenix that was causing the issue. There was a, like a crash handler or some kind of like file that was open. And it was sucking up like 48% of my CPU.
We can get a little shortcut here.
Because I,
Catered 6238 firm, you will get a shortcut, but you're way too close with the previous traffic and you're flying way too fast. So it will need a large separation between you two to avoid collision.
Oh, okay,
both of you fly 330.
okay, so, where can I see it? Well, you're not going to because it doesn't work in Microsoft Flight Simulator.
On my radar, the previous traffic flying at 460 knots on ground speed, and you're flying 500 knots on ground speed. So I will need a large separation between you two before moving to the next controller.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna start lowering.
Yeah, so when I killed the stream last night, my CPU was still at like 100%. I'm like, why is my CPU like at 100%? Like I killed OBS, and OBS is like the second most resource hungry thing on my computer. And I was going through and I was looking at the task manager and I was like doing math, and I'm like I'm doing the math, and this is only adding up to like 60%. And
on conversion,
I'm sitting there, I'm like, something's weird. So then I scrolled down the task manager, and then I saw like there was a thing for Phoenix, and it was at 49%. I said, oh, that's my problem. So I killed that, and then the CPU dropped down to nothing. I was like, oh my god.
Speed 290 or greater.
290 or greater, teleport 355.
Oh, look at this. Look at this climb rate. Oh, whoops. Look at this, 900 feet per minute.
Proceed direct, come on.
Proceed
Phoenix,
direct.
yeah. Phoenix.
Can you repeat that again for Qatar 693?
Catered 623 direct, come on. Alpha Kilo Mike Oscar November.
Alpha Kilo Mike Oscar November for Qatar 693.
Controller. I'm still like, he wanted me to fly at 410 when he was giving us the clearance. I'm just wondering, in what world does an A321 fly at 410 unless it's like empty? Oh, I never put in my alternate. WBSB. So let me throw that in here. So let's see. I can figure out like what the optimal altitude. Yeah, so optimal is 360 and max is 380. Definitely not going to be flying at 410.
Radar teleport 355. If possible, request runway 20 right. Due to we don't have the 20 left on the FMC, and we'll maintain the profile.
Cut 355 for that request. After coordination with the approach, you can request that on approach. And for your information, 20 right close. The runway is closed for maintenance.
Well,
Copy.
they don't simulate that, so you don't need to worry. It's closed for maintenance. That's a real world thing. That's not going to be simulated.
350, descend flight level 150.
Descend level 150, red cap 6350.
Okay, so just making sure, yeah, the speed brake is, well, yeah, speed brake is disarmed. Yeah. God, we're climbing so slowly. So there is one plane ahead of us. It's an A320. It's AAR. I'm not sure what airline that is. Let me find out. Asiana. There's an Asiana ahead of us. There's the Qatari behind us. And then there's a couple of planes that are leaving Kota Kinabalu that are heading out to Cameron. There's a couple that are actually landing right now. Yeah, this is one of the more calmer first wings events that we did. I remember the last one we did, it was kind of busy. So it's actually better that it's a little calmer.
Thank you.
Cap 6350, contact Cameron approach 127.9 above.
Contact Cameron approach 127.9.
And Ackman is actually where we're going to switch over to Singapore radar. Blaze, thank you for that follow. Welcome aboard. So if we take a look at Navagraph here, we can actually see Akman is where we transition over to Singapore. Oh, Blaze is coming in with a raid. Oh, thanks for the raid, Blaze. Good to see you. How are you doing? How was your stream? So yeah, Akman right here is where we switch over from Ho Chi Minh out to Singapore, and then Asisu is where we go from Singapore out to Kota Kinabalu. So that's why he gave us that shortcut out to Akman. Looks like, yeah, we got a little bit of a headwind, but nothing too crazy. So about a 10-knot headwind. Still looking at 16:19 as the arrival. Yeah, so about an hour and 20 minutes. So as we get closer, we'll be able to figure out what runway we're going to land on. Then we'll brief the arrival, and then, of course, we'll brief the approach. So where we're going only has one runway, either 02 or 20. I'm assuming we're going to be landing on runway 20. We got a company message. We're probably gonna have an ADC card. Yep, 17 minutes. We're definitely gonna say it's an ATC delay. So let's see. ATC startup delay, yeah, AMZ 0017. That will do. AMZ 0017. We're gonna blame it on ATC. It's all their fault. That's just the Fenix thing. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just one of those things that Fenix does for simulation, which is kind of cool. Yep, if you can't blame it on the weather, you blame it on ATC. Defend, deny, depose. Or defend, deny, what is it? Defend, deny, delay. Defend, deny, delay, not depose. Or democracy, exactly. Blame it on the non-democratic entities not naming anything specifically. Bugs, bots, Illuminates, all of them. Face the wall. Hey, we're finally coming up on 330. Pay the bills. No, not paying bills. Not paying bills anymore. No more bills, no taxes. No more taxes. Taxes are illegal. Me, day one, dictator of Earth. Taxes are now illegal. Charging taxes is no longer democratic. That is not for democracy. That would be it. I would just need to be dictator of Earth for one day. Walk in, taxes are illegal, leave. Oh, but how's the government supposed to get money? Have you considered a bake sale? Do a car wash. Actually, don't do a car wash. I don't want to see that. Money is illegal. I don't know about that. We still need money. I mean, I still need money. Speaking of, I just do want to remind everybody that we are still raising money for the California Fire Foundation. So if you don't know who they are, they're an organization that is currently assisting those that have been affected by the Palisades wildfires earlier this year. So it's all set up through the Twitch charity function. So I do ask that if you are considering throwing any money at the stream, that you instead consider donating it to the California Fire Foundation, so that way they can continue to help those out in need. So obviously, you're not obligated, but anything that you can contribute is greatly appreciated by both myself and the great people of California. And then, we also do have a Discord. So, _Discord is going to get you that link. And it is an 18+ server, so just keep in mind you'll need to be 18+ in order to join it. But that's like that's where we like to hang out when we're not streaming. So feel free, join on up. hell is happening? Oh, there we go. Sorry, I was just taking a big swig of coffee right there. I'm going to turn the seatbelt signs off. Not expecting a bumpy ride, so we'll let you guys walk around. I'll let you guys have your yard time. Land taxi to gate 10. Where's gate 10? Let's see. Gate 10 is right about there, okay? Yeah, it just depends on the scenery. I don't know if the scenery that I have is going to be very accurate. I don't even know what terminal I don't even know if Vietnam Airlines flies here. Let's see. Terminal in Pola Kinabalu. WBKK. So the international terminal. What terminal is that? Probably gonna be terminal. I don't know. It's not even telling me the right airport. Maybe it doesn't even fly here. Yeah. Gate 10. Why not? Eat some snacks. Nah, I had breakfast. I'm good to go. Didn't have a very big breakfast, but it was still a breakfast.
This is Qatar Section 3. Can I have 10 minutes out of the cockpit?
No.
Qatar 6 to 10 minutes, approach, report back.
Thank you.
I would have told him no. Me as a VATSIM controller. Hey, can I step away for 2 seconds? No. Not allowed. Why? Because I said so. I have the power. I wonder, we can probably actually get an ATIS on the planes. We can't get it through the pilot client right now, but we can kind of cheat here. So let's see if we can get an ATIS for, the name of the place I can't say the name of. WBKK, Ola Kinabalu. I did arrival. So then we'll send that. And we should be able to get an ATIS, because there is one that's up. We're just not within range of it for the pilot client yet, but the plane should be able to get it.
Agena 194, contact Singapore radar 123.7.
Dude in front of us.
Contact Singapore radar at 123.7.
So hopefully we can get.
Thank you.
If not, it's not a huge deal. And then, as always, as we get closer, we'll open up the landing rate prediction. So we do that when we're about 30 minutes out from landing. And hopefully we don't crater this friggin' thing like we did last night. That was pretty bad. Only 1 week away from cross the pond. Who's excited for that? I do have kind of a like a schedule put together already for it, which I'm going to post later. So Tuesday, I think we're going to fly from Helsinki to Amsterdam. And then on Thursday, we're going to fly from DFW to Detroit. So being that Helsinki is our departure and Detroit's our arrival, we'll get a, you know, a nice little dry run to both airports, or practice run to both airports. And then Friday, we won't be streaming because we'll be up pretty early for Across the Pond. And there will not be an FNO on Friday. And then Wednesday, I mentioned it last night, Wednesday I'm not going to be streaming the usual Wild Card Wednesday because I have some things that are going on. So unfortunately, we'll have to skip next week's Wild Card Wednesday, but we'll come back with a bang the following week. There is a new game that I want to check out too. It's called Motortown. Across the Pond next week. Yep. Next Saturday. It's a week from today. So we are taking off out of Helsinki at 12:30 Zulu. I think it's 12:30 Zulu. So we're, yeah, because we're starting at 11:30 Zulu. We do have a poll in the Discord for what game you guys want to see me fly, and the MD-11 is winning by quite a bit. So we have 17 votes for the MD-11, we have 13 for the Trip 7, and then we have 8 for the A350. So it's looking like it'll end up being the MD-11, but that poll is going to close on Monday because Tuesday and Thursday, you know, that's when we're going to be doing the practice runs. And I did have a little bit of an issue with the MD-11 yesterday. I went to go take off, went full power, got about 10 knots below V1, and then engine 2 came, like, rolled all the way back. And then I got an engine fire alert. I was like, what? So then I did the takeoff again, and it was fine, so I'm not sure what happened. But if the MD-11 gives us any issues like that on either one of these practice runs, then I might not use it. But that's the first time that the MD-11 has ever done that on the takeoff roll. Because the last thing I want to have happen is we go to take off across the pond, and then I have to reject it, and then we're sitting in line again. It's a great plane. No, I don't have failures on, so I don't know if it was just some kind of like a glitch or whatever, but like the red light came up on the instrument panel that like denotes that like there's an engine fire, but I didn't get like the fire alarm didn't go off, but engine 2 just rolled all the way back. So, and I don't know what happened. I didn't touch anything, so I'm not sure what went wrong. But then I rejected the takeoff, went back, and then as I was taxiing, I took engine 2 and just kind of firewalled it, and it started spooling back up. I was like, okay, so it's working. There was probably something that I was supposed to do that I didn't do. So yeah, I'm not really sure what went wrong, but it's not really that big of a deal.
And the Qatar 693 is boop boop back.
Yeah, you don't need to yelling like that. Welcome back.
Nah. So yeah, but yeah, like I said, like there was only the only other issue I ever had with the MD-11 was after we were flying out of I forget where. I want to say it was Boston, and we fired up the engines, and then right before I went to taxi, engine 2 shut itself down. So we'll have to make sure that we pay extra attention to that checklist.
Vietnam 621 early handoff, Singapore radar 123.7, bye-bye.
132.7, Vietnam 621. Thanks for all your help this evening.
Yeah, 132, Augusta 123.7.
Yeah, 123.7, apologies.
623, Singapore radar 123.7.
123.7.
123.7, never.
Singapore radar, Vietnam 621, flight level 330.
Vietnam 621, Singapore radar, good evening, maintain flight level 330.
Maintain 330, Vietnam 621.
Singapore radar, Qatar 623.
How's the flight? Going good so far. Going good so far.
623, Singapore radar, maintain flight level 330.
So we're about an hour and 15 minutes from landing-ish. Let's see what this says. So 16, 18, yeah, so about just a little over an hour. We did not get an ATIS. I don't know what's going on with the Fenix lately, but it does not... The ATIS function does not seem to be working. Whoops, that's not what I want. Let me just try going to received messages. Oh, okay, so we got the ATIS, but it didn't pop up in here. That's interesting. All right, so let's see what we got. So, we'll just read through this ATIS first, and then we'll go back and then break it down piece by piece. So we have the Kinabalu Terminal Information Golf at 1430 Zulu. Departures and arrivals on runway 20. Expect ILS approach. Airport meteorological data. Winds are 120 with 3 knots. Varying between 100 and 160. Visibility is 10 kilometers. Few clouds at 1400. Few clouds again at 1600. Temperature is 27. Dew point is 25. Altimeter is 1008. For departure, aircraft at first contact... For departures, aircraft at first contact Kinabalu ground. After airborne, contact Kinabalu radar. Expect radar departure for departing aircraft. Notify receipt of information Gulf and advise you of information Gulf. So,
in Singapore Tree 4.
Bring this back up here and let's just break this down piece by piece. So the ATIS is always going to start with the airport that it is for. So before you start reading through all of this information, make sure you're looking at the correct airport. We are flying to the Kinabalu airport. That's the ATIS that we're looking at. So we're off to a good start so far. And it's also got the airport identifier right up here, WBKK. Next we see information Golf. So that is the ATIS that is active for the airport. So when the air traffic controllers update the ATIS, they are going to attach a letter designator to it, so that way when you contact them for the first time, they're going to know whether or not you review the ATIS, because you're going to have to tell them what letter designator you have. So it's just an easy way for them to know. The ATIS is usually updated at the top of every hour. In this case, it looks like it was updated at 1430 Zulu, so it was at the bottom of the hour. So that's why I get in the habit of checking it every 30 minutes, because sometimes they do change it at differing intervals, but if you're checking it at the top of the hour, usually you're going to be okay. Departures and arrivals, runway 20. So for departing and arriving planes, we are going to be using runway 20. For arrivals, we can expect the ILS approach, so we'll expect the ILS for runway 20. Airport meteorological data, so this is going to get into the weather observation. We have our wind direction and speed. Wind direction is 120, and the speed is 3 knots. So the wind direction is broken down into a numerical format. That way it's easy for you to determine what runway you could be using, because your runways are numbered based on what direction they face, and it's going to help you calculate your headwind and crosswind components for your takeoff and landing. So if you were thinking of the wind direction like compass headings, north is 360, south is 180, east is 90, west is 270. Next, we see 100 V160. So this is telling us that the wind direction is varying between 100 degrees and 160 degrees. Predominantly coming from 120 degrees, but there is a little bit of variation. And when the winds are really light like this, like 3-knot winds are practically nothing. So it's not uncommon to see varying wind directions when the winds are really light. So just want to be cognizant of that. Next, we have our visibility is 10 kilometers. That's how far ahead of us we can see. Your visibility is going to depend... Well, the visibility measurement is going to depend on what country you're in. You'll either see it in statute miles, meters, or kilometers. So in Malaysia, they use kilometers. But again, depending on country, you might either see meters or statute miles instead of kilometers. Next, we have our cloud coverage. We have few clouds at 1400, few clouds again at 1600. So 4 different types of cloud layers that you can see: few, scattered, broken, and overcast. The number is the cloud height above ground level in hundreds of feet. Temperature is 27 degrees Celsius. Dew point is 25 degrees Celsius. So that's the outside air temperature and dew point. Always use degrees Celsius. There's no other unit of measurement that we use. A1008 is the altimeter setting, or the barometric pressure for the airport. We're going to plug that into the airplane's altimeter window once we get to our transition flight level, and then the altimeter is going to display what our height above sea level is, or what our elevation is. 2 different ways that you can get an altimeter setting. One is inches of mercury, the other is hectopascals. The easiest way to tell which one you're looking at, if the altimeter setting starts with a 2 or a 3, it's in inches of mercury. If it starts with a 1 or a 9, it's in hectopascals. For departure aircraft, at first contact Kinabalu ground. So if you are departing aircraft out of Kinabalu, your first contact is going to be with ground control. After airborne, contact Kinabalu radar. So after you take off, you would then switch over to the Kinabalu radar controller, like we did coming out of Cameron. Once we were airborne, we switched over to the departure controller.
Number 308, monitor 122 decimal, good day.
Expect radar departure for departing aircraft. So this is basically saying expect radar vectors for departure, meaning that the air traffic controller is going to tell you what to do in terms of the direction that you're going to fly. So like when we flew out of Cameron, we were flying a departure route, and we were following that charted route. Coming out of Kinabalu, you're not really going to be following any sort of departure chart. You're going to be doing whatever the air traffic controller tells you. Notify receipt of information Gulf, advise you of information Gulf. So that is just reiterating when we contact air traffic control. In our case, it's going to be when we make contact with the approach controller. We're going to let them know that we have information Gulf. That way they know that we have read through all this information and we understand what it is. So any questions about that, feel free, pop your questions in the chat. I'd be more than happy to answer those for you. This breaks it down into 3 different pages. So once we're able to get it on the vPilot client, I'll pull it up so that way it's all kind of like one page ahead of, like in front of us. But if you do have any questions in the meantime, feel free to pop them on in the chat. And since we know we're going to be flying the ILS approach for runway 20, we can kind of start figuring out what arrival we're going to fly. So we'll come over to Navigraph and we'll, we have the airport selected here, Kota Kinabalu. We'll hit this little procedure tab. And let's just see what arrivals are available for runway 20. So we have, it looks like the Adlex 1 Echo and the Adlex 1 Alpha. So there's 2 different arrivals. Let's see what the difference is between the 2. Do we not have a chart for it? Let's try this. So we'll go to charts, we'll go to stars. Looking for the Adlex. Okay, so the way they have it broken up is a little different here. So we're going to do runway 20 arrivals from the, I guess from the east? Nope, I'm looking for the west. I don't know my directions. Here we go. So I'm just, so we have northeast, then, so there's nothing from northwest. So let me pin this. Hello, Sancho. Yeah, so this is going to be the arrival here. Because it said, hang on, because it said Adlex. Oh, this is for runway 0. Yeah, so it's going to be the Adlex 1 Alpha. That's what we're going to end up flying here. So, this right here is going to be a couple of different arrivals, but one of them is going to be the Adlex 1 Alpha. So before we start reading any of these charts, we want to make sure we're looking at the right airport and we're looking at the right chart. So, over here on the side, we see WBKK, which is the Kota Kinabalu Airport, which is in Kota Kinabalu, Malaysia. And then let me flip this around here so we can read this. And on this chart, we have the Adlex 1 Alpha, the Dulum 2 Alpha, the Agenu 2 Alpha, the Alado 2 Bravo, so on and so forth. All of these different arrivals are going to be on this chart. The Adlex 1 Alpha is one of them. That's the arrival we're going to expect. And right here it says for runway 20. So always make sure that the chart that you're looking at is also compatible with the runway that you intend on using. So looking at this chart, we want to look for 2 things. We want to look for the airport, which is right here. Then we want to look for our transition. So if you remember from our flight plan, Adlex is going to be the transition onto the Adlex 1 Alpha because it's the fix that comes right before the arrival. So we're going to look for Adlex, which is right out here. So we are going to follow this path down to the airport. So, at Adlex, we have an altitude restriction. And the way you read your altitude restrictions is you look for where the altitude falls in reference to these lines. So we have flight level 220 and flight level 140 in between these 2 lines. This means that when we cross Adlex, we have to be between flight level 220 and flight level 140. So as long as we're between those 2 altitudes, we will be compliant. From Adlex, we're going to fly inbound to Sabnu. At Sabnu, we have an altitude restriction between 8,500 and 5,500. Then we fly out to Rummel at a maximum airspeed of 185 knots at or above 4,000 feet. So when your altitude restriction is above this line, that means you need to be at or above this altitude. Now, right above Rummel, we see IAF. So this stands for initial approach fix. So this is where we're going to transition onto the approach for runway 20.
Thai 403 Singapore radar, squawk 2271.
From Rummel, we're going to fly out to Lannick, still at a maximum airspeed of 185 knots, and your speed restrictions are an indicated airspeed. So when you see a speed restriction, that is indicated airspeed. So at Lannick, max speed of 185 knots at or above 2,300 feet. Then down here we have D 10.4 VJN at or above 2,300 feet. So this is the distance, 10.4 nautical miles from the VJN VOR, which is going to be the Kota Kinabalu VOR.
Thai 403 identified.
So when you see a D in front of a sequence of numbers like this, that is going to stand for distance. So when we are 10.4 nautical miles from the Kota Kinabalu VOR, we need to be at 2,300 feet. FAF stands for Final Approach Fix. So this is the fix that we are going to start our final descent down towards the runway. Didn't the ATA say ILS? Why is this an RNAV chart? It's the ILS approach. So arrivals and approaches are two different things. So the arrival sequences you in to start your approach. So most of your arrivals are, especially at your bigger airports like this, are going to be RNAV, and RNAV stands for Area Navigation, which is a very sophisticated way to effectively say GPS. RNAV and GPS are a little bit different, but with the way GPS technology is, RNAV uses GPS for the most part. But the ILS is the approach, and ILS stands for Instrument Landing System. So it's the ILS approach, but the arrival might be an RNAV arrival, because this sequences you in to come in and start your approach. But that is a good question. So again, final approach fix is 10.4 nautical miles from the Kota Kinabalu VOR. Then from there, we start our final descent down towards the runway. Now, a couple of other things that you're going to see on here. Between Adlex and Sabnu, we're going to see 73 degrees. That's just the track that you're going to fly to get from Adlex to Sabnu. Right up here above this this course line right here, we see Adlex 1 Alpha. So this is telling us this is the route for the Adlex 1 Alpha arrival. And then the 38.1 is the distance between Adlex and Sabnu. So 38.1 nautical miles. This golden ring around the airport right here is a 25 nautical mile ring, and this is telling us what the different minimum sector altitudes are in relation to, in this case, the airport reference point. So if we're to the west, our minimum sector altitude is 2,500 feet. If we're basically to the south-ish, it's 7,500, and then if we're to the east, it's 9,900. So if we are going to be below those altitudes in those respective sectors, just be cognizant of any terrain or obstacles that could be around you. And then a couple of things up over here. The ATIS frequency is on 127.4, so if we wanted to listen to the ATIS on the radio, that's the frequency we do it on. Airport elevation is 13 feet. The altimeter is going to be set to hectopascals, and our transition level is flight level 130. So once we get below flight level 130, we're going to set the altimeter setting to the local setting that was given to us in the ATIS. Number 1, descent information, window provided for descent profile, catering for continuous descent operations until the intermediate fix. So basically, window provided for descent profile, catering for continuous descent. So basically what this is saying is that these windows here, like I believe this is what this is. I've never actually seen it said like this before, but what I believe it's saying is that it gives us these, we'll call them windows of altitudes over these different fixes to allow for a continuous descent when we're making our way down. So that way we're not descending down to one altitude and stopping and then going down to another altitude and stopping. It's basically giving us a little bit of leeway to ensure that we are making a continuous descent. And then number 2, bank angle 25 degrees or 3 degrees per second. So we do not want to go any further than a bank angle of 25 degrees when we're making these turns. I don't know if that is something... I don't know how to actually set that in the Airbus. But I think it may do it automatically. It may factor that in. Because usually you're not going to do anything more than 30 degrees. 30 degrees is your standard bank angle. But I don't know if there's actually a way for me to set in the Airbus what my bank angle is going to be. If anybody does know, let me know. We do not want to be the Thunderbirds. Yeah, right. You sent a friend request on... Oh, did you? Yep, I got it. Ah. Yeah, I'm pretty liberal when it comes to friend requests on Volanta. So if anybody out there is on Volanta that wants to add me, go ahead, send a request. I'll accept it. I'm not very picky about who I accept on Volanta. It's just a flight tracking app. Yeah, don't go below 9,900 in those mountains. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I believe with those the altitudes that it gives you, the minimum sector altitudes, it guarantees you clearance of 1,000 feet. So 9,900 is 1,000 feet above the highest terrain or obstacle in that area. And then since we already know we're going to be flying the ILS approach, there are two ILS approaches. There's a Zulu and a Zulu and a Yankee. So let's see.
Singapore 114, contact number.
So likely going to end up flying the ILS Zulu. How close are we to the next sector here?
132.8, Singapore 14.
It might be a little too early to start briefing the approach just yet. But once we get into Kota Kinabalo's airspace, let's we can start doing it at that point. When's our top of the descent?
403 arrival clearance.
So it's at our top of the descent's at Adlex. Okay. Well, it shouldn't be. Hang on. Well, it's before Adlex. It's just the way that it is weird. Oh, we also don't have the approach set up here, so let me do that. So let me do flight plan, WB, arrival.
Thai 403, go ahead.
We'll do the ILS Zulu, runway 20.
403 to Singapore, Ilalo 1 Bravo, runway 20.
The Adlex 1 Alpha.
Flightable 240.
And vias, no approach vias, so we'll do this.
Thai 403 to Singapore, Ilalo 1 Bravo,
and we'll just make sure this loads in correctly, so we have
Ilalo 1 Bravo,
Adlex, so it's going to have us at flight level 191, then Sabnu, Romal, and then it did not load. Okay, it did. Romal, Lanek, then FF20, which I believe is going to be, when we look at the approach plate, that's probably going to be that 10.4 DME. Yes,
Singapore
it is.
114, Singapore radar.
So yeah, that's all loaded in correctly. 16:15 is going to be our arrival time, so about 45 minutes from now. Beautiful.
Singapore radar debuting Dynasty 208, flight level 280.
And then now our top of descent is going to be at
Dynasty 208,
a little bit before
Singapore radar,
Adlex.
continue climb at level 400 final.
410, thank you, Dynasty 208.
And we are flying a little bit lower
Dynasty
than
20 negative.
we were scheduled here or
400
planned.
final.
So let's just make sure our
400
fuel
final,
burn
Dynasty
looks
208.
good. It should be. So we are coming up. We just passed Lagat, and we're flying out to Totem. So at Lagat, we were supposed to have
Cargo King 255 descend 7,000 feet.
12,100, and then yeah. So we're good. We're still good here. So we're about 400 pounds over what we initially planned, which is good. And we also had a very short taxi, so that's probably about 600 pounds extra that we had on our min takeoff fuel.
Transat 781 Delta Singapore radar.
Very nice, very nice.
Transat 781 Delta, surface wind light and variable, climb to 3,000 feet, runway 20 center, clear for takeoff.
And it looks like the controllers at Cameron have signed off, and we are at pretty much the tail end of the event here. We got one of the last slots out of Cameron.
This is Qatar System 3. Can we have 5 minutes from the cockpit?
No.
Qatar 623, 5 minutes away, approved report back.
Would have said no. Yeah. Not allowed.
Or not.
That. It is good that we got to do some flying out in Southeast Asia again. I like doing these events in areas where we don't usually get a whole lot of air traffic control. Because for the VATSIM 101, we usually do most of our flying in the Americas, like North America, Latin America, South America, Canada. Not really in America, but it's on the North American continent. So it is nice when we get to do some of these events in areas of the world where we don't usually get to fly.
Lufthansa 781 Delta identified, climb to level 240 unrestricted.
Level 240 unrestricted, Lufthansa 781 Delta.
Singapore radar, Singapore 38 is holding short runway 20 center at Tango 1.
Singapore 388, Singapore radar, good evening, surface street light and variable, climb 3000 feet, runway 20 center, clear for takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 20 center, initial climb 3000 feet, Singapore 388 heavy.
Alright. What's up over here? So we'll brief the approach, I guess, in a little bit, just so we have an idea as to what's going on. Oh, we can actually get the ATIS here, so I'll bring this up again. So everything is pretty much the same. The wind's changed a little bit because now the ATIS was updated about a half hour ago. So still looking like it's the same. The winds are now 110 at 4, varying between 090 and 150. Visibility is still fine. The clouds are pretty much what they were before. There's only one few cloud layer now. But yeah, I'll leave the ATIS up here for a minute. If you do have any questions about what any of this means, you can feel free to pop them in the chat. We did go over this before, but now that it's all kind of in one area instead of being 3 different pages, it's a little bit easier to read. So any questions, throw them in the chat. And I'll start getting the performance data loaded into the FMS. So QNH is 1008. Then we have the temperature is 27 degrees. Magnetic winds are 110 at 4. And then transition level is, what did we say the transition level was? 13,000, flight level 130. And then the minimums we'll know here in a bit when we take a look at the approach. Let's see, I'll turn the constraints back on here. So 15:34, arrival time is 16:14. Yeah, so about 40 minutes until we land. So we'll get the landing rate prediction opened up here in the next couple of minutes.
Delta, proceed direct Victor Tango Kilo. Singapore 38 identified, climb 6,000 feet.
The next controller we're going to go to is Kola Kinabalu. Oda Kinabalu. That is going to be on frequency 126.1, so let's get that in here. 126.1. And then I'm also going to... Oh, damn it. I forgot the Fenix does this. 126.1. And then I'll put the tower controller and the ground controller in the second radio here.
Right.
So I'm just getting this off of the pilot client because it's telling me what the tower and ground controllers are. And then ground is 121.6.
Now 194, contact Kinabalu radar 126.1.
Kinabalu radar 126.1.
So now I don't need to worry about fumbling with these knobs. All I gotta do is push these buttons and then I'll be over on the frequency that I need to be on. Very good at pushing buttons. Just ask my mother. She'll tell you. So top of the descent at about 120 miles. That's going to be in... Why does it say top of climb? Didn't I switch this? What is going on? Oh.
Singapore 38, climb flight level 240.
Climb flight level 240,
there we go, okay, so it wasn't switched to the init page. So top of descent's in about 20 minutes.
Malaysian 268, contact Kinabalu radar 126.1.
Is that for me? Is that for Vietnam 621?
Negative, Malaysian 2638, contact Kinabalu radar 126.1.
126.1,
Maybe if I learned how to pay attention. Bah! What's up, Scott?
And the target center is back.
Hello. He back.
That's 3 minutes 70, but welcome back.
Other establishment of class to flight. So,
King 255 process in line, variable runway 20 right, clear to land.
Set around and choose flight first.
How am I? Doing good, doing good. Nice early stream. Not a bad way to spend a Saturday. Well, I say early, like I started at 9 o'clock my time, which is about 2.5 hours ago. So it's 11:30 right now. Not a bad way to spend a morning on a Saturday. Got some things around the house I need to do. I was going to go to the store today, but I think I'll just do it tomorrow. Yeah, I think I'll just do it tomorrow. It can wait an extra day. Just going to kind of vibe out today. How are you, though?
All stations Singapore radar, wait for 2 minutes.
Had a rough week. Well, hopefully we can help you end it off on a positive note. Somebody keeps keying up their radio. Oh yeah, that is pretty rough. We don't need to get into specifics about it on stream, but you know, I definitely send my condolences.
Number radar, Singapore 125, flight level 210.
Singapore 125, Singapore radar, good evening, clear to Singapore, via Leaded 3 Bravo, arrival runway 20 right.
Leaded 3 Bravo, arrival runway 20 right, Singapore 125.
Singapore 125 when ready, descent flight level 160.
Descent flight level 160 when ready, Singapore 125.
Feeling a bit better. Well, that's good. It does take time.
Singapore 125 when ready, descent flight level 160.
Descent flight level 160.
We should be getting switched over to
right now, Singapore 125.
Kota Kinabalu here soon, because this is where the airspace transitions.
For
Hey, the shot. How are you? There's a Ryanair flying out here.
Vietnam 621, contacting about radar 126.1, good day.
126.1, Vietnam 621. Thanks for all your help this evening.
See ya.
Alright, so let's make contact with this controller. Kota Kinabalu radar, Vietnam 621, flight level 330.
Cross transmission, Vietnam 621 identified, Kinabalu, LX1 Alpha arrival, runway 20.
Yeah, runway 20, and I believe that was the Aldex 1 Alpha arrival. It's Vietnam 621.
AFA, when ready, proceed direct to Rumal.
Yeah, when ready, proceed direct to Rumal for Vietnam 621.
Flipping 2007.
Alright, so we'll go direct to Rumal. So he said the Aldex 1 arrival, but then went straight to Rumal, so it's bypassing almost the entire thing.
Flipping 2007 identified, heading 202, climb flight level 140. Philippine 2007, I say again, heading 202, climb to flight level 140.
Got Chief's op manager at Nomadic Aviation. There you go, nice.
202, plate level
Landing rate, yeah, let's do that. So yeah, we're just about 30 minutes out.
Malaysia 9032, do you copy?
Thank you for reminding me here. So we're going to get the landing rate prediction opened up here, and that'll be open for the next 30 minutes.
Sorry, Mario, got switched.
So there's a purple window at the top of the chat. That's where you can go to bet your nuggies on what you think the landing rate's going to be. So, you got 30 minutes, get your bets in, and good luck. And looks like our top of the set is about 80 miles.
240.
Nomadic virtual just for... Yeah. If I didn't say virtual, that's my bad. I saw it, though. Nomadic virtual. Oh, yeah, I'm the hub manager for Seattle for the Delta virtual. That's been fun. I've been doing that for probably about 2 years at this point.
Kinabalu radar Asiana 194 is about reaching top of descent.
Asiana 194, descend to flight level 240.
Descend to flight level 240, Asiana 194.
Kinabalu radar, hello.
Oh, your staff had a couple of them. Jesus. I can barely handle one.
Qatari 623 Kinabalu radar identified. Clear to Kinabalu. Atlex 1 Alpha arrival. Runway 20.
Clear for the Atlas 1 Alpha arrival. Expect runway 20 for arriving to Qatar 600.
Qatari 623 when able direct to Rumal.
Direct to Rumal.
So let's take a look at the ILS approach here. So,
Philippine 2007 direct to Asitu.
this right here is the
300.
ILS Zulu approach for runway 20 at Kota Kinabalu. So just like when we were looking at the arrival, we want to make sure we're looking at the right airport and we're looking at the right chart. So we have WBKK, which is Kota Kinabalu Airport in Kota Kinabalu, Malaysia. ILS Zulu, runway 20. So we're looking at the right airport, we're looking at the right approach. Up at the top, we have the different air traffic controllers that we could be communicating with. The only controller that's not online right now is the approach controller, so that is the one that we are not going to have to worry about. So always make sure that you are on the appropriate frequency for whatever your flight calls for. Localizer frequency is going to be on 111.1, and the identifier is IKKD. So on this plane, it's going to show us both the localizer frequency and that identifier to confirm that it is tracking that particular localizer. Final approach course is going to be 203 degrees. That's going to go in the course selector for the plane, so that way we're tracking the correct signal coming off that localizer. We're going to intercept the glide slope 7.2 nautical miles from the localizer itself, which we need to cross at 2,300 feet. So this is a mandatory crossing restriction. We need to cross 7.2 miles from the localizer at 2,300 feet.
Right.
The ILS decision altitude is going to be listed down below. Airport elevation is 14 feet. Runway elevation is 11 feet. We have the minimum sector altitudes around the Kota Kinabalu VOR, which is the same sectors as around the airport itself. In the event we have to go missed, which is when we get to our decision altitude, if we don't think we can safely land the plane, whether it's because we cannot see the runway or the runway environment, or just for whatever reason it does not look like it's going to be a safe landing, the missed approach is going to be a climb on 203 degrees, and on passing the Kota Kinabalu VOR, turn right to the Econo holding pattern, climb to 4,000 or as directed by ATC. So again, it's going to be a climb on track 203 degrees until we pass the Kota Kinabalu VOR. Then we're going to turn right, direct to Econo, and then fly the holding pattern that is there. And then we're going to climb up to 4,000 or as directed by ATC. I don't know why I can't move this chart around. Sometimes Navicraft does this.
Are you descending?
Affirm.
So.
Why are you descending without my permission?
Oh boy.
Oh, I thought you...
Qatari 623, climb 330, do not descend without clearance.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah,
so this right here is a top-down view of what the approach looks like. So the intermediate fixes Atlantic. Then we're going to proceed inbound to the final approach point, which is 7.2 nautical miles from the localizer. And then from there, we'll begin our final descent down towards the runway. And then this over here is the holding pattern over Econo. And then this right here, this dashed line, is going to be the missed approach that we're going to fly to get us out there.
Qatari 63, I need you to start climbing now.
Then right here we have, sorry, I can't click and drag this for some reason. Freaking annoying. Right here we have a side profile view of what this approach looks like. So we have 2,300 feet is what we want to be at when we cross Lannick. And then Lannick is going to be 11.9 miles from the localizer and 15 miles from the Kota Kinabalu VOR. Then we're going to proceed inbound to cross 7.2 nautical miles from the localizer at 2,300 feet. Catch the glide slope, which is going to give us that vertical guidance down towards the runway. This grid right here is the vertical descent rates along with the amount of time that it's going to take for us to get from the final approach fix down to our missed approach point. So our approach speed is going to be somewhere around 130 knots, so we're going to be looking for about 700 feet per minute on the descent. And it's going to take us, let's say, maybe around 2 minutes and 25 seconds to get from the final approach fix to the missed approach point.
Level 360 from Malaysia 9032.
We're going to be looking we're going to be looking for a high-intensity approach lighting system with PAPIs on both sides of the runway. And then right here is the abbreviated missed approach. And then right down here, we have the decision altitude based on our category of plane. The A321 is a Category D plane. So this is the minimums that we are going to be using. So 594 feet is our decision altitude. If we get to 594 feet and we don't see the runway environment, or if for whatever reason we don't think we can safely land the plane, we will then be expected to execute the published missed approach. So down here we have our visibility requirements. So this is what we call the runway visual. Well, actually, it's not the runway visual range, but it's weird how it's kind of set up like this. But basically, this is telling us that if the visibility was less than 2,410 meters, we wouldn't be able to shoot this approach. We would need to hold around the airport and wait for conditions to improve. And depending on whether or not the approach lighting system is working, the visibility requirements get bumped up just a little bit. So if the approach lights aren't working, the visibility gets bumped up to 3,100 meters just to err on the side of safety. Now, this does vary depending on what your category of aircraft is. And this is based on what the airplane's approach speed is. So, Category A is an approach speed less than 90 knots. Category B is 90 to 120 knots. Category C is 120 to 140 knots. Category D is 140 knots and above. So if you do have any questions about this, feel free. Let me just try something here. There we go. So feel free, pop your questions in the chat if you do have any questions about the approach plate itself. So we'll leave this up here for just another minute or so. Oh, and then one thing I guess I could go over is that over here, we have the localizer minimums, which is in the event that the glide slope is not working, they just increase the minimum descent altitude and the runway visual range, again, just to err on the side of safety because you're not getting that vertical guidance from the glide slope. And then the circle to land minimums is if you were going to approach on one runway, but then land on another. So if for whatever reason we decided that instead of landing on runway 20, we were going to come land on runway 02, these would be the minimums. So those are going to be much, much higher because you're going to have to keep the airport in sight for the entire time you're doing that maneuver. So circle to land is not something that you're going to do a whole lot, but they do have those minimums outlined in there just in case.
Vietnam 621, when ready, descend flight level 150.
When ready, descend flight level 150, Vietnam 621. So our top of descent is in about 15 miles, so we'll start a descent here soon. We'll just start it now. Question, you should be at 70 knots at 172 feet, not in an A320. 70 knots at where are you seeing that? 70 knots at 172 feet. 372 feet. Oh, are you talking about this? No, this is your vertical descent. So if your ground speed is 70 knots, you're going to want to be descending at 372 feet per minute.
Version 2638, ready for descent.
So our approach speed is going to be 139 knots.
280.
So it's technically going to be below the requirements for Category D, but the A321 is considered a Category D plane, so that's what we're going to be using. So we'll bring this back over here.
Skyway 623, when you have reached your tower descent to 50150.
Reach on top of the sun.
All right, we'll get the seatbelt signs turned on here. And we're going to catch the profile here in just a second. Oh, you're welcome, McCullough.
Ashana 194, descend to 4,000 feet.
Descend 4,000 feet, Ashana 194.
All right, here we go. So the plane is automatically going to set the approach frequency in here for us. We're just going to make sure it's right. So IKKD, that's what we're looking for, 111.1. And the approach course, this says 204, and the approach plate says 203. This is just a discrepancy between Microsoft Flight Simulator and Navigraph. Not a huge deal. So in the real world, it would probably be a little bit bigger of a deal, but in the simulator, it's just a discrepancy.
Vietnam 621, descend to 7,000 feet, QNH 1008.
Descend 7,000, QNH 1008, Vietnam 61. Right. Who's ready?
Malaysian 26384, spacing, turn left heading 035, you are number 5.
So still got about 15 minutes left in that landing rate prediction, so make sure you get your bets in.
035 and number 5
Nuggies.
sequencing.
The Nuggies.
Malaysian 268, correction, number 4, and continue descend 50150.
Number 4 and 150, Malaysian 268.
Bah! Bah!
Ashana 194, descend by the star to 2,300 feet, cleared for the island Zulu Birch runway 20.
Descend 2,300 feet, clear for ILS Zulu runway 20 approach, Asiana 194.
Ashana 194, descend by the star, meaning to say follow all the altitude restrictions.
How are you enjoying 2020? I'm not on 2024, I'm on 2020.
Asiana 194.
Malaysian 2638, track adjustment heading 050.
050.
I'm going to end up downloading 2024 in the near future because I do have Game Pass, so I can get the basic version for free. So I'll end up downloading it and trying it out. I'm just kind of waiting for some of these planes to be supported on 2024. The big one that I'm waiting for like official support for is the Fenix.
Malaysian 2638, direct to Rumah, report speed.
Direct to Rumah.
I don't think PMDG is fully supported on
Malaysian 268, roger, speed 270, not so left.
on 2024 yet. I know the INI builds plans
270 less, Malaysian 268.
They're full. Yeah, that's just what OBS has. It's Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. That's why I have FS20 in the title. Just to differentiate between the two.
Vietnam 621, report speed.
Oh. Speed 320, Vietnam 621.
Vietnam 621, speed 250 knots, descend to 4,000 feet.
Alright, speed 250 down to 4,000, Vietnam 621. Alright, so I'm gonna do this. And I'm gonna pull the speed brake out here. PMDG has a release lineup in their Discord. They have a Discord? When did they get a Discord? If they have a Discord, I'm joining it after the stream. Because I have not, like, anytime I have an issue with like a PMDG, like, I just kind of like either leave it alone or I go through like their ticket thing and talk to Chris. It's like it's like I'm not gonna sit, like, I don't go on forums anymore, so it's like I'm not gonna go back and forth on the forum. But if they finally got a Discord, that's amazing. That was one thing that I said. I was like, we need to like get a like I was like, PMDG needs a friggin' Discord. But yeah, if they have one, that's awesome. Do you want me to post? No, I'll find it. It's fine. Thank God. W. Randazzo.
Malaysian 9032, position IC2, radar service terminated. Monitor advisory, Singapore is closing.
Copy. We'll switch to advisory for Malaysia 90.
Oh, it's an unofficial community-run Discord. Okay. That's still better. Yep, I found it. Altimeter is 1008. They posted a lineup release dated back to 4. So okay, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I'm gonna get the music turned off here as we approach our sterile cockpit altitude. Put your comm to yeah, I know. I already set my radios up. Thank you. Yeah, they have tower and ground, though that's in radios 1 and 2. We are good. The next frequency is going to be up. The approach control. There is no approach controller. Okay, why do I? Oh, that was the last controller we were on. Okay, never mind.
Malaysian 2574, Kinabalu.
Malaysian 2574, maintaining flight level 330.
Malaysian 2574, identified. Clear to Miri, Asaki 1 Echo arrival. Aspect Island, Zulu approach runway 02. Tower 623, descend to 7,000 feet, QNH 1008.
7,000, sorry, descend to 7,000, QNH 1008.
Malaysian 238, descend to 7,000 feet, QNH 1008. 7,000 feet and QNH 1008.
DTB is next weekend, Mike.
Malaysian 2574,
repeat for Malaysian 2574.
Let's get the landing lights turned on, wing lights
Malaysian
turned on.
2574, you appear to Miri on the Asaki 1 Echo arrival, runway 02.
Cleared to Miri via the Asaka 1 Echo arrival 02.
Firm. Malaysian 2638, cancel speed restrictions.
Cancel speed restrictions 2638.
Vietnam 61, descend by the start to 2,300 feet. Accept, maintain speed 220 knots until base. Okay for the other Zulu brush, runway 20.
Alright, descend 2,300 speed, 250, cleared ILS, runway 20, Vietnam 61.
Vietnam 61, speed is 220 until base turn.
220 until base turn. Apologies, Vietnam 61.
Qatari 623, descend to 5,000 feet, speed is 250 knots.
I mean, it says we're going to get down, so I'm just going to trust it. So it says speed 220 until base turn, so that's after we get to Rumal, and then we'll go back to our normal speed. Oh, now that's coming way down. All right, let's do We'll pull the speed brake out. Oh, can't do that. It's going to put us in the alpha floor. So let's do flaps 1, and now we'll pull the speed brake out. That should be fine. Okay, well, it depends on how much time I have.
Philippine 2007, position as
Just relax.
P2, radar donated. Monitor advisory. Philippine 2007, radar service terminated. Monitor advisory.
Alright, so that's where we're going to get to our altitude here. So we should be catching this profile here relatively soon. Where are we at right now? So we are 1,100 feet above, or 1,200 feet above, but that is coming down.
For established localizer, runway 20.
So we'll just keep the speed brake
Ascena
out.
194, copy connect tower, 118.3.
Yeah, I know.
Contact tower 118.3. Thank you. Ascena 194.
Qatari 623, descend to 4,000 feet.
Descend to 4,000, Qatar 600.
Alright, so we're back on the profile here. Let's come out. Profile. Alright, we're gonna bring this back in. And then once we start this turn, we'll bring our speed back. There we go. We'll get the rest of our lights turned on here. That way when we drop the gear, then those lights will be on.
Malaysian 2638, descend to 5,000 feet.
And tower's still up, so we'll end up switching to
5,000
them
feet, Malaysian
here.
2638.
And that's in radio 2. Let's get that over here.
Malaysian 2574, Kinabalu. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's going to be the airport right there. Looks like there's somebody landing. That's going to be the, probably the Asiana.
Direct Iguku, Malaysian 52574.
So we're going to be starting our turn here in just a second. We'll turn our landing bugs on. Oh boy. Alright, so we're a little above the glide slope. Not a huge deal. Localizer's starting to come in, so we're going to activate the localizer mode. So let's go flaps 2. And we'll go approach mode. And we're going to set our go-around altitude, so that'll be 4,000. Oh, it's diving for the glide slope. Let's get the gear down. I have to set the speed brake, and we'll do auto brake low. I didn't do my landing calculations, but it's a pretty long runway, so speed brake low is going to be fine. Technically, I don't even need to arm the speed brake. Oh my god.
Vietnam 621, establish localizer tower 118.3.
Over to tower 118.3, Vietnam 621. Alright. Tower Vietnam 621, ILS 20. Laps full.
Vietnam 621, continue approach.
Continue your approach, Vietnam 621. Hopefully this is not a minus 600 foot per minute
1904, contact ground 121.6.
Ground 121.6. Thank you, Asana 194.
Okay. Vietnam 621, the wind is 140.03 knots, clear to land runway 20.
Runway 20, clear to land, Vietnam 621. So he's just telling us the wind information for our information. We don't need to read that back to him. Just the landing clearance will do. Autopilot off.
Window 01, continue holding. I have one more landing. Window 01, continue holding at position. I have one more landing.
Continue holding position due to one more landing. Window 01.
300.
That building is so close. Yeah, we're landing. Didn't get a minimum call out.
Light slope.
Shut up.
40, 30, 20. Retard. 5.
Okay, reversers deployed. Auto brake deployed. I think I flared a little too much. That nose wheel came down with authority. In.
Vietnam 621, vacate via hotel on to Charlie.
Vacated hotel onto Charlie, Vietnam 621. The hotel is going to be our next taxiway right here on our left, so we're going to vacate at hotel, and then the terminal is going to be right here off of Charlie, so it'll be nice and easy. Is an excellent free. Yeah, I forgot to check for any. I kind of got a late start today, so I didn't get a chance to check for any sceneries. So that is on me. Let's get the landing lights turned off here. Taxi, or turn off lights off. Nose light coming back to taxi. Strobies coming off. And wing lights coming off. And then we will get the speed brakes up and the flaps up. And then it'll be a left
Vietnam
turn.
621, contact ground 121.6.
121.6, Vietnam 621. Thanks for all your help tonight.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for coming.
Oh, turn! Ground, good evening. Vietnam 621 on Charlie for the ramp.
Vietnam 621, Kinabalu ground. Evening, continue on Charlie, right Mike, Bay 12.
Yeah, continue on Charlie, right turn on Mike, Bay 12, Vietnam 621. Let's get the APU on. 21000. 31000. So Bay 12 is going to be, it might be a little hard for us to find. Actually, no, it won't. Because we're coming in on Mike, and then it's going to be the first one to our left. So that'll actually be really easy. We'll get the landing bugs turned off. The constraints can come off. So this one right ahead of us is Bay 11. So we're going to come out this way. And there should be a taxi lane over here. A little parking. Yeah, it looks like a little parking lane for... That looks like it's probably Bay 12. Turn back on. And we're gonna stop right about here. Parking brake's gonna come on. We'll get. I mean, we're supposed to wait 60 seconds until we turn the APU bleed on, but not my plane, not my problem. So we're gonna make sure the engines are stable, which they are. Both are coming off. And then below 40% on the N2s, we're gonna turn the beacon lights off. My mouse is acting up. Can you please stop being a dick? Right, there we go. So beacon light coming off. We're going to disconnect from the network here. Or actually, no, he wants to get a photo of the plane, so I'll leave us connected.
Ryan 047.
But I will turn down the radio volume here. All right, so we'll get the dome light turned on. Seatbelt signs coming off. All right. Landing rate time. Are you guys ready? In 3, 2, 1. Ooh, yes. Yes. That makes up for last night. Hell yeah. Minus 160 feet per minute. Hi, Rogue. So. We've got... Uh-oh, JoJo's here. JoJo's still here. He rigged it. So that's going to be between 151 and 200 feet per minute. Let's see who won. Oh, it's not JoJo. It's not JoJo. We're safe, everybody. It's not JoJo. He didn't rig it this time. So let's see who the winners are. We have Mike. Mike is our sole winner of the Nuggies. Yay, I learned how to land a plane again. I kind of forgot last night. I'm going to show you guys last night. Man, that's not the worst. So the worst landing rate I had, I think, was like 970. And I think that's when I got pissed off at the MD-11 one time. And I just kind of like slammed. I was like, fuck this plane. But yeah, that was last night. That was fun. That was a fun flight, though. The air bridge event that we did last night was a lot of fun. That is not... Yeah, Camaro has a, like a whole formula that I saw earlier this morning for, like, the landing rate. Where did I see? That was in the flight set. Yeah, it says, he says, measure the length of crunch that is the landing gear, then use the kinematic equation, whatever that is, and then all sorts of like, he's like the only pilot that knows how to do math. And then he was like, oh yeah, I don't even know how to begin to decipher what it is that he said. Like he's the science guy. I don't know nothing about that. Plane does math for me. I am monkey brain. I don't know nothing. I just fly. They teach me how to go up and down. They didn't teach me how to do plus and minus. Damn fate. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Monkeys are. I mean, well, I guess that would be like a goldfish. I don't know. I'm barely sentient at this point. I'm not pilot, not airworthy anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I am at this rate. I don't know what I am. Having a midlife crisis, and I'm not even midway through life yet. All right, so with that being said, that is where we are going to end things for today. So for those of you that are new here, what we usually do is VATSIM 101. And how it works is I take you through a flight in VATSIM, break things down nice and slowly as we go through it, and answer any questions that you have along the way. So we go through things like how to talk to air traffic control, how to file and fly your flight plans, how to read the different charts and publications. Really just going through the basics on VATSIM, giving you the resources and knowledge that you need to be successful on the network. So, I'll bring up the stream schedule that we had for this week. I don't have next week's schedule posted just yet, but this is what, I mean, it's a little bit different this week because we're streaming today, and Saturday is not a normal stream day for us. But Tuesdays through Fridays is our normal stream days. We start at 2300 Zulu, which is 7 p.m. Eastern time. And Tuesdays and Thursdays are the VATSIM 101 breakdown streams, like what I had talked about before. Kind of like today, where we go through things nice and slowly. Fridays, we get into the Friday Night Ops, or FNOs, which are big chaotic events that VATSIM puts on for the community, and then we just fly in the event. The schedule there said TBA because this week there was supposed to be an FNO, and then there wasn't an FNO, so it was a little weird. But Tuesday through Fridays is the normal stream schedule, and then on Wednesdays we put up for a vote in the Discord what game you guys want to see us play. Now, unfortunately, this week coming up, I will not be streaming on Wednesday because I have some things that are going on, and then Friday, of course, we're not streaming because Saturday morning is Cross the Pond. And it would not be very productive to stream late at night on Friday and then have an early flight on Saturday morning. But we will be back on Tuesday night, everybody, and Tuesday and Thursday of next week, we are going to be doing our practice runs for Cross the Pond. So we'll be flying on Tuesday from Helsinki to Amsterdam, and then on Thursday, we'll be flying from DFW to Detroit. So I'm going to put the Discord and socials link in the chat for you guys. So the Discord is 18+, so if you do wish to join it, you will need to be 18+. And then the socials link is where you can find me on some other platforms like YouTube and TikTok, where I do have some VATSIM 101 style content for you to take advantage of, especially if you are somebody that is new to the network. So feel free to check those videos out as well. And I do have more videos that are planned. So there is certainly more to come on that front. Let's see who we're going to go raid. Who we raiding? Oh, that looks like it's Dr. John. Oh, that was a very abrupt stop. Woof. I got whiplash just looking at that. Who are we going to go raid? Let's see. We have Mustafa's up, Fizz is up, Bardic's up. We could go say hi to Bardic. We have Sim Egan. Who do we want to go raid? What are you guys thinking? I won't spend too much time on it. We'll give it like a minute, and then if nobody decides, then we'll just pick somebody. Let's see. Rip the pay. Yeah, I'm like, my neck is broken just looking at that. Let's see. I'm thinking Bardic. We can go say hi to Bardic. We don't really get to raid into Bardic a whole lot. What are they doing? Oh, no. It says his stream title says that they got COVID. RIP. It's probably a TFF, like, debrief, because he was at TFF this past weekend. Yeah, let's go say hi to Bardic. So, you guys know the drill. When we get into Bardic's chat, we are going to spam the Nuggie. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, you can use your Nuggies to unlock the Nuggie. Spread it into Bardic's chat. Once we get in there, spread the love and the positive vibes in their direction, and make sure you tell them that Cross Hyperu has sent you. So we will see you all Tuesday night, everybody, 2300 Zulu, 7 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of VATSIM 101, doing our first practice run from Cross the Pond from Helsinki to Amsterdam, getting familiar with our departure airport, Helsinki, for Cross the Pond on Saturday. We will see you all then. definitely want to thank all of you for coming out today, especially this early in the morning on a not so normal streaming day. Appreciate all of you continuing to support what it is that we do here. Can't wait to do it all again with you next time. So let's go say hi to Bardic, everybody. And until next time, this is Cross Hyperu signing out.